Chapter 331. The drifting snow palace's soul refinement snowy ice region was the best place for the sect's disciples to cultivate in seclusion. At this time, Yin Kong-chan, wearing a pale yellow robe, came out from the entrance of the snowy domain. Compared to before, her body gave off a much more elegant feeling. Kong-chan, your aura is quite distant, and your cultivation has already completely stabilized. Presumably, you would be able to advance to the soul sculpting second level in a short period of time. A middle-aged female cultivator spoke while looking at Yin Kong-chan with a smile. Yin Kong-chan quickly gave a respectful bow and spoke, I have troubled Fourth Palace Master to wait for such a long time. This Kong-chan's advancement to the soul sculpting realm is also something that I have no other choice. This middle-aged female cultivator knew the meaning of Yin Kong-chan's words, as she stepped forward and took Yin Kong-chan's hand and spoke, the geocentric 9 Yin essence has appeared, moreover there is also another important matter, you have to go to the hall of discussion. Yin Kong-chan, who was originally very calm, on hearing the words geocentric 9 Yin essence, immediately trembled. Even if she remained calm, she could not help but ask, Fourth Palace Master, did the geocentric 9 Yin essence really appear? The middle-aged female cultivator nodded and spoke in a serious tone, yes, not only did the geocentric 9 Yin essence appear, but even the 9-colored mirage tree also appeared. Yin Kong-chan immediately blurted out, what happened to Ning Cheng? The middle-aged female cultivator looked at Yin Kong-chan's expression and spoke with a sigh, Su Yingde successfully severed her emotions on Ning Cheng's body, allowing her to reach the soul sculpting realm. Moreover, this time, the geocentric 9 Yin essence and the 9-colored mirage tree will appear in the Grand Peace City's auction. It is estimated that all the academies are thinking about how to bid for these two things. Ning Cheng was killed. What the middle-aged female cultivator did not expect was that Yin Kong-chan's first words were not about the geocentric 9 Yin essence, but rather Ning Cheng. The middle-aged female cultivator did not notice that Yin Kong-chan's tone was a bit strange, as she gave a dignified nod and spoke, Su Yingde successfully severed her emotions on Ning Cheng's body, causing Ning Cheng to be killed. As such, all of Ning Cheng's things appeared in the Severing Emotions Dao sect. This time, the 3 drops of geocentric 9 Yin essence that appeared in the Grand Peace City came from the Severing Emotions Dao sect. The geocentric 9 Yin essence is simply too precious, coupled with the fact that the Severing Emotions Dao sect found Ning City first, and obtained the things of Ning City, I'm afraid. Yes, once Su Anjin recovers her cultivation, no one in our floating snow palace would be her opponent. Sang Jieju's voice arrived in time. Master. Yin Kong-chan whispered. Sang Jieju looked at Yin Kong-chan tenderly, only she knew that Yin Kong-chan's soul was missing a trace, it was not innate, but rather someone plotted against her. Unfortunately, even now, she still didn't know who had plotted against her daughter. In the floating snow palace's discussion hall, almost all the crucible transformation cultivators had already arrived. Sitting in the middle was a woman wearing a blue robe, with an indifferent expression. After Sang Jieju and the 4th princess entered the discussion hall, they took the initiative to sit on both sides of the cyan-robed woman. Yin Kong-chan gave a respectful bow and spoke, Yin Kong-chan greets Grand Palace Master. This green-robed woman's face softened a bit, before she nodded to Yin Kong-chan and spoke, Kong-chan, come and sit next to me. After Yin Kong-chan sat down, the woman spoke up, there are rumors that the Severing Emotions Dao sect has already obtained all the things in Ning City. Moreover, the Grand Peace City has also spread the news of the geocentric 9 Yin essence and the 9-colored tree branch being auctioned off. What do you all think? The old woman sitting in the first seat on the left spoke up in a hoarse voice, the rumors say that it came from the West Lu makeshift city, moreover I heard that it is a disciple of the Red Star Sword faction. This matter must have been deliberately done by someone. After the Severing Emotions Dao sect obtained these two things, how could they casually give it to their disciples? This is absolutely impossible. Another middle-aged female cultivator spoke up with a sneer, the second palace master thinks that it is absolutely impossible, how could it appear in the auction? Does the profound light chamber of commerce dare to deceive the entire Tian continent's academies? The old woman's complexion suddenly turned ugly, she was just about to speak, when the palace master at the head of the table spoke up, this discussion is for the sake of my floating snow palace, regardless of whether this matter is true or not. Since the geocentric 9 essence has already appeared, we must treat it as if it is true. According to the words brought back by Kong Chan, Ning City should have finally been successfully severed by Su Yingde. Since it was the result of severing her emotions, then it would not be strange for his things to appear in the severing emotions Dao sect. For us, it would be better for Ning City's things to fall into anyone's hands rather than the severing emotions Dao sect, not to mention. As the palace master spoke till here, she deliberately glanced at Yin Kong Chan at her side, before continuing, what's more, Kong Chan is the future Grand Palace Master of my floating snow palace, her soul is damaged, as such we must obtain those 3 drops of geocentric 9 essence. I think that what the palace master said is right, the severing emotions Dao sect Su Anjin also suffered damage to her soul. If Ning City's things were not obtained by the severing emotions Dao sect, then for the sake of these 3 drops of geocentric 9 essence and the 9-colored mirage tree, Su Anjin would have personally gone to the Grand Peace City. As such, it would be even more difficult for us to obtain the geocentric 9 essence, as such we must go all out this time. A petite female cultivator stood up and spoke. That blue-robed palace master shook her head. What Sixth Sister said is not completely correct. I think that regardless of whether the severing emotions Dao sect obtained Ning City's things or not, they would have to go all out. Su Anjin would also have to personally go to the auction. Everyone knew what Su Anjin needed, if the geocentric 9 essence came out, but she would not personally go there, then it would mean that the rumors were true, that the severing emotions Dao sect really did have a lot of geocentric 9 essence. Therefore, she wanted to go and buy the geocentric 9 essence and the 9-colored mirage tree, and also to dispel the rumors for the severing emotions Dao sect. If Ning City's things were not obtained by the severing emotions Dao sect, then they would definitely send out their entire sect, to snatch the geocentric 9 essence. As for our floating snow palace, we absolutely cannot let Su Anjin recover her cultivation. This is not just a matter of 3 drops of geocentric 9 essence, but a matter of life and death for our floating snow palace. All the people in the discussion hall understood the meaning of the palace master's words. The floating snow palace and the severing emotions Dao sect were mortal enemies. Once an expert like Su Anjin, who hated the floating snow palace, recovered her cultivation, then the floating snow palace would definitely not have a good time. At the same time, in the severing emotions Dao sect's discussion hall, a young girl wearing a black robe was sitting on a black lotus while looking at the empty space outside the discussion hall, as if her mind was wandering. None of the people in the discussion hall dared to speak, as they waited for the young girl sitting on the black lotus to speak. Even the severing emotions Dao sect's headmaster was waiting for instructions. After a while, the black-robed young girl spoke in a light voice, "Someone wants to harm my severing emotions Dao sect." Initially, after Dai severed her emotions, we did not find Ning Cheng's remains, which indicates that Ning Cheng's things might have been taken away by someone else. This person and my severing emotions Dao sect have enmity, as such he spread rumors to deliberately harm my sect. Great-grandmother, the matter of going to the Grand Peace City, just leave it to me. I will definitely bring back the geocentric 9 essence and the 9-colored mirage tree, great-grandmother can rest assured. Su Yingde, who was standing beside the black-robed young girl, spoke in an affirmative tone. The black-robed young girl shook her head and spoke, "This time, there will definitely be a lot of people trying to snatch these 2 things, moreover most of them are experts from the academies. Therefore, it would be useless for you to go, I have to go myself. Not only will I go, but also the people from my severing emotions Dao sect will definitely not be few. Since someone has already taken out these 2 things, it means that there are even more. Without the geocentric 9 essence, I cannot recover. Once my cultivation is restored, then even if they plot against my severing emotions Dao sect, so what? It's just a bunch of chickens and dogs." Speaking till the end, the black-robed young girl's tone was filled with strong disdain and pride. The same scene was happening in the major academies, the Heavenly Dao Academy, the Scarlet Sun Weapon Sect, the Yin Yang Dao Sect and other academies were also coming out in full force. What they saw was not only the 3 drops of geocentric 9 essence from the profound light auction, but rather the other things behind these 3 drops. With the news that the profound light auction was about to auction the geocentric 9 essence and the 9-colored mirage tree branch, the rumors in the West Lu makeshift city also spread out even more crazily. The news of the severing emotions Dao Sect's Su Anjin and the many crucible transformation cultivators coming out in full force, was also caught by everyone in the shortest possible time. At this moment, not only were all the experts paying attention to the auction, but they were also paying attention to the severing emotions Dao Sect's Su Anjin. If Ning Cheng's things were taken away by Su Yingde, then it would definitely be placed on Su Anjin's body. Ning Cheng believed that even if the severing emotions Dao sect came to know that there were people drawing hatred towards the severing emotions Dao sect, the experts from the severing emotions Dao sect would definitely come out. Not only that, Yin Kongchan's floating snow palace would definitely send people over, these 2 academies would definitely fight against each other. Therefore, he calmly went to arrange the transmission array, in order to speed up the transmission speed of the transmission array. Each of the transmission arrays would at most cover a distance of a few thousand miles. If he connected the several transmission arrays together, then it would be more than a few tens of thousands of miles. As long as he succeeded, and started the transmission, then he would definitely be able to escape. 100 miles away from the periphery of the severing emotions Dao sect, Ning Cheng, who had already finished arranging the transmission array, stood alone. His calculations were not wrong. At this time he came to know that most of the experts from the severing emotions Dao sect had already left. For him, this was the only thing he could do. If he wanted to take away all the top experts from the severing emotions Dao sect, then it would be absolutely impossible. The severing emotions Dao sect was very careful, although they had dispatched a lot of experts, but the Academy's mountain protecting grand array had already fallen down. That is to say, at this time, even if someone came to attack the severing emotions Dao sect, the experts from the severing emotions Dao sect would be able to rush back in the shortest possible time. Of course, Ning Cheng would not be an idiot to attack the severing emotions Dao sect. The severing emotions Dao sect's mountain protecting grand array was a rank 9 grand array, while Ning Cheng was just a rank 7 array formation grand master. Wanting to break through this array formation would be somewhat difficult. However, he still had nearly a month's time. In this month, if he still could not enter the severing emotions Dao sect, then he would have no choice but to dejectedly leave. No matter how good the strategy was, it also required the strength to match. Although the severing emotions Dao sect's reputation was much more resounding than the Rainbow Fall Sword sect, but Ning Cheng felt that the severing emotions Dao sect was far less magnificent than the Rainbow Fall Sword sect. This was the heritage of a sect. The heritage of the Rainbow Fall Sword sect was much stronger than that of the severing emotions Dao sect. In the evening, Ning Cheng had already stealthily arrived outside the severing emotions Dao sect. He intended to find a place, and carefully study the rank 9 array formation on how to enter. Although he did not have the ability to break through the rank 9 array formation, but if he wanted to find a way to enter, then there was still a chance for him to do it. After all, the severing emotions Dao sect had only placed down the grand array, and had not sealed off the mountain. Chapter 332. Ning Cheng hid himself for a whole day. After a day of deduction, he found that this mountain protecting grand array was not a rank 9 grand array at all. At best, it was just a mountain protecting grand array that was barely close to a rank 9 grand array. Unfortunately, even so, it would take him at least half a month to enter the mountain guarding formation with his own ability. Moreover, he could not let anyone discover him during the process of deducing the formation. Ning Cheng hesitated, although he had told the auction house that he would only start the auction of the geocentric 9 essence a month later, but this was only the most ideal situation. Right now, all the monsters, low-level experts, and people that he had a grudge against had been brought to Great Peace City. Who knew if there would be a problem with the auction? Or even start ahead of time? Not to mention that after entering the severing emotions Dao sect, he would have to spend a lot of time. He was going to steal something, so he would definitely need to break all kinds of arrays and restrictions along the way, which would consume a lot of energy and time. Therefore, it was absolutely impossible to use half a month to deduce the mountain guarding array. A Severing Emotions Dao Sex Soul Essence female cultivator landed outside the mountain protecting grand array. This soul essence female cultivator took out a jade card and sent it out, causing the array formation to quickly open up to an entrance. After the female cultivator entered, the entrance quickly closed up again. When Ning Qing saw this, he immediately called out Grey Toot Toot, as he engraved a concealment restriction on his miniature world ring and hung it around Grey Toot Toot's neck and spoke, "You just have to think of a way to wander around the entrance. If you see a beautiful woman, then you just have to act like a spoiled child. As long as you mix into the array formation, then it would be fine." Saying that, Ning Qing did not even wait for Grey Toot Toot to call out in protest, and directly entered the miniature world. Grey Toot Toot was helpless, and could only stand at the entrance of the mountain protecting grand array and act cute. This time, Grey Toot Toot did not have to wait for long, before another beautiful female cultivator on a flying sword landed at the entrance of the mountain protecting grand array. This pretty-looking female cultivator was a late-stage profound core cultivator. When she saw Grey Toot Toot shaking its head and wagging its tail, she suddenly frowned. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness was also paying attention to the outside. When he saw the female cultivator frowning, he immediately knew that Grey Toot Toot's act of acting cute had failed. He quickly sent a sound transmission to Grey Toot Toot to escape. Grey Toot Toot did not want to stay in this place for a long time, so when Ning Cheng's sound transmission came back, it immediately broke into a run. Grey Toot Toot had just left the place, when a fireball fell on the place where Grey Toot Toot had just been standing. It could be seen that as long as Grey Toot Toot was even half a step slower, it would be turned into ashes by the fireball. Fortunately, this female cultivator did not take Grey Toot Toot seriously. After Grey Toot Toot left, she directly took out her jade card and entered the array formation. Ning Qing came out of the miniature world, as he once again wore the ring on his finger and started cursing. The women of the Severing Emotions Dao sect really could not be treated as women. According to his experience, if an average girl met a cute little thing like Grey Toot Toot, they would definitely pick it up and bring it back. But when the female disciples of the Severing Emotions Dao sect saw Grey Toot Toot, they unexpectedly turned into fireballs. No wonder the women in this place cultivated such a disgusting cultivation method. After Ning Qing sent Grey Toot Toot into the miniature world, he still did not try to deduce the array formations. He would only spend time to deduce the formation if he had no other choice. Now that Grey Toot Toot couldn't do it, he had to do it himself. Hiding at the entrance of the array formation, Ning Qing completely converged his aura. In just half a day, he encountered a soul sculpting cultivator, a soul essence cultivator, and a late-stage profound core cultivator entering the grand array. Ning Qing was very patient and did not move at all. Until the day was about to end, an early-stage profound core female cultivator arrived at the entrance of the mountain protecting grand array. The moment this early-stage profound core female cultivator took out her jade card and opened the entrance to the array formation, Ning Qing immediately activated his twin wings of the heavenly clouds. The twin wings of the heavenly clouds immediately teleported, brushing past the side of this profound core female cultivator. Although Ning Qing had used a teleportation technique, moreover he had also brought out his concealment cultivation method to the extreme. Even after the teleportation ended, he immediately turned invisible again. However, this female cultivator still felt that something was wrong. She doubtfully swept out with her spiritual consciousness over and over again, but still did not find any problems. The anomaly from a moment ago felt as if it was just an illusion. As soon as Ning Qing entered the mountain protecting grand array of the Severing Emotions Dao sect, he immediately felt a much richer spiritual qi compared to the Rainbow Fall Sword sect. Although he sighed at the wealth of the Severing Emotions Dao sect, he did not dare to move. Just a moment ago that profound core female cultivator was still looking around. It was clear that although his teleportation was fast, it was still detected by the other party. It was not until the time it took for half an incense stick to burn, that female cultivator frowned, as she brought out her flying sword and quickly flew away. Ning Qing heaved a sigh of relief. He did not immediately enter the depths of the Severing Emotions Dao sect, but once again returned to the foot of the mountain protecting grand array, and found a place to arrange a few explosion arrays. using the explosion arrays to break the array, was the last resort. Ning Qing arranged a few explosion formations in this place, just in case. With everything ready, Ning Qing began to sneak into the depths of the Severing Emotions Dao sect. With his concealment movement technique, in this academy filled with experts, unless it was a person with a keen eye, it would be very difficult to find him. Su Anjin was the most powerful person in the Severing Emotions Dao sect, as such she would definitely live on the Severing Emotions peak. Ning Qing did not go to any other place, as such he directly sneaked into the Severing Emotions peak. The Severing Emotions peak of the Severing Emotions Dao sect was very easy to recognize. It was located in the middle of the Severing Emotions Dao sect, and was also the highest peak. The spiritual qi in the surroundings was much richer than the other peaks. Now that the experts of the Severing Emotions Dao sect had all come out, moreover with the mountain protecting grand array, there were not many disciples walking around the academy, as such Ning Qing was able to easily arrive at the periphery of the Severing Emotions peak. The Severing Emotions peak was a few hundred feet high and towered into the clouds, while the outside of the peak was blocked by a grand array. Ning Qing knew that it was impossible to enter the Severing Emotions peak through the mountain protecting grand array. Not to mention that there was no one going in or out of the Severing Emotions peak. Even if there were people going in or out, he would not be able to mix in so easily. However, what made Ning Qing feel relieved was that the defensive array outside the Severing Emotions peak was only a rank 7 array formation. Ning Qing himself was a tier 7 array formation Grand Master, as such he was not able to crack an array formation that was close to tier 9. However, in the face of a rank 7 array formation, even if this array formation was constantly communicating with Su Anjin, it was still possible for him to sneak in. Su Anjin's cultivation compared to Ning Qing was just like a strong man compared to a baby. However, in terms of array formation cultivation, she would not be any higher than Ning Qing. Ning Qing, in order to cultivate array formations, had spent several years at the bottom of the Blood River Mountains. Moreover, his several years of research was not something that an ordinary cultivator could compare to. Even if Su Anjin's attainments in arranging array formations was slightly higher than Ning Qing's, but in terms of cracking array formations, she was definitely not comparable to Ning Qing. What's more, Su Anjin's attainments in array formations were not necessarily higher than Ning Qing's. In just half a day, Ning Qing entered the Severing Emotions peak without disturbing Su Anjin in the slightest. After entering the Severing Emotions peak, he swept out with his spiritual consciousness. At this time, what he feared the most was that Su Anjin would take away Shi Qionghua's soul. If Su Anjin had not suppressed Shi Qionghua's life essence in the Severing Emotions peak, then he would not have been able to do anything about it. With his current cultivation, if he wanted to snatch something from Su Anjin's body, it would be 10,000 times more difficult. However, Ning Qing guessed that the possibility of such a thing happening was not great. To suppress a life essence, one must be in an extremely cold place, moreover one must also arrange a variety of array formations to protect it. If one did not have a top-notch magical weapon, wanting to carry one's life essence on one's body at any time and place was extremely unlikely. It was not that one could not carry one's life essence on one's body, but to carry it on one's body, one must have a treasure like the soul-nourishing wood or the underworld soul flower. Moreover, in this way, it would not be considered as suppression, but at best it would be imprisonment. There was an essential difference between imprisonment and suppression. The imprisoned life essence could dissipate, and could even lose consciousness. However, the suppressed life essence could not move at all, and each and every action would be controlled by the person suppressing it. If one wanted to imprison one's life essence, and achieve the same effect as the suppression, then the level of the array formation restrictions must have reached at least rank 8 or above. In Ning Qing's view, Su Anjin's level of array formations was not that high. Within the range of Ning Qing's spiritual consciousness, more than a dozen restrictions appeared, but he did not see any experts. Instead, there were more than a dozen medicine apprentices coming and going from the various restrictions. With Ning Qing's cultivation, his spiritual consciousness could not directly penetrate through these restrictions, to see what was inside. However, Ning Qing guessed that these restrictions must have contained a medicine garden, and the heavenly cusp flower was most likely in one of these medicine gardens. Ning Qing carefully broke one of the restrictions, and found that it was filled with rank 6 and above spiritual grasses. He withdrew from this medicine garden, but did not touch these spiritual grasses. These things could be taken away when he left. Right now, he had to first find the place where Shi Qionghua's life essence was being suppressed. As Ning Qing opened one restriction after another high-level spiritual grasses and medicine gardens appeared in front of Ning Qing. In the face of so many high-level spiritual grasses, Ning Qing's heart was filled with disappointment, as he did not see the heavenly cusp flower. Despite the disappointment, Ning Qing still carefully concealed his figure as he passed through these restrictions. He had just entered the Severing Emotions Peak, as such there were still many places that he had not explored yet. Ning Qing really wanted to grab an essence-building realm cultivator and interrogate him, but he still forcibly held back his impulse. Su Anjin was definitely not a good person. She had placed these medicine apprentices here. Once someone tried to touch these medicine apprentices, then maybe she would immediately know about it. Inside the Severing Emotions Peak, even if he was facing all the lower-leveled cultivators, Ning Qing was still very cautious and careful. Although it took him half an incense stick worth of time to travel, it took him an entire day, before he finally arrived at the entrance of a huge dark palace. After entering this place, Ning Qing did not dare to show even half a shred of carelessness. It did not matter if he spent a bit more time, but he must not let anyone find him. This huge dark palace had the words "falling in love is meaningless" written on it in large letters. At the entrance of this dark palace, there were 2 profound core doormen cultivators standing guard. The dark palace's entrance was wide open. With Ning Qing's ability, it could be said that he could easily enter this palace. Ning Qing did not go in easily. He hid himself outside the entrance of the palace, while using his spiritual consciousness to repeatedly investigate the palace. Caution is the parent of safety. He only had one chance, and he had already bought enough time, as such there was no need to be anxious. After another half a day passed by, Ning Qing was secretly covered in a cold sweat. He knew that his caution was not wrong, although the entrance to the palace looked ordinary, but there was an extremely concealed rank 6 trigger restriction. Anyone who entered this palace would immediately trigger this restriction. After this restriction was triggered, the palace would not show any abnormalities, but the person who arranged this restriction would definitely know that someone had entered this place. As for who arranged this rank 6 trigger restriction, Ning Qing did not need to guess. He knew that it was Su Anjin without a doubt. Chapter 333. Although Su Anjin's attainments in array formations were not much different from Ning Qing's, but when it came to breaking array formations and restrictions, Ning Qing was actually a lot stronger than Su Anjin. Ning Qing stimulated the twin wings of the heavenly clouds and entered the dark main hall, bypassing the rank 6 trigger restrictions, and directly arrived at the depths of the main hall. The 2 profound core doormen did not know that Ning Qing had already entered the main hall. Compared to the previous female cultivator in the profound core realm, these 2 profound core doormen were much less astute. Passing through the empty main hall, Ning Qing arrived at a dim spiritual grass garden. Ning Qing could barely be regarded as a rank 5 profound pill master. As such he knew that other than some special spiritual grasses, most of the spiritual grasses needed light. Planting spiritual grasses in this dim courtyard, coupled with her own residence being so dark, Ning Qing could only say that Su Anjin herself was a shady person. The spiritual grass garden was sealed with restrictions. Although Ning Qing could easily break the restrictions here, Ning Qing did not dare to do so. This was Su Anjin's lair. In case he accidentally disturbed Su Anjin, it would make it even more difficult for him to find Shi Qionghua's life essence. Regardless of whether the heavenly cusp flower was in this spiritual grass garden or not, he would have to wait until he rescued Shi Qionghua's life essence. Ning Qing carefully used his spiritual consciousness to investigate this place several times, and finally found that there were only some simple trigger restrictions, causing him to feel relieved. He passed through the dim spiritual grass garden, and arrived outside a very ordinary-looking immortal cave. The immortal cave was tightly closed, surrounded by many restrictions, and the spiritual qi was extremely rich. Ning Qing guessed that this was the place where Su Anjin usually went into seclusion. Other than this very ordinary-looking immortal cave, there were no other entrances around. It seemed that he had already reached the last place of the Severing Emotions Peak. The Severing Emotions Peak was really simple, which made Ningqing somewhat worried. If he could not find Shi Qionghua's life essence in Su Anjin's immortal cave, then this trip would be tantamount to him coming here in vain. Su Anjin's immortal cave looked very ordinary, and Ningqing could easily break the restrictions above it in the shortest possible time. Ningqing was afraid that Su Anjin might have used some tricks on the restrictions, so he hid outside the immortal cave for 2 days, before he silently opened the restrictions of the immortal cave and entered the immortal cave. At this time, Ningqing finally arrived at the place where Su Anjin was cultivating. The inside of this place looked much simpler than the outside of her immortal cave. Ningqing also did not think that Su Anjin's immortal cave would be so simple and crude. Other than the magnificent and imposing main hall before entering, after entering, there was only such a small cultivation room. Ningqing repeatedly swept out with his spiritual consciousness, making sure that there were no hidden entrances in the surroundings, and that there really was only one room in this place. There was a praying mat in the middle of the room. It was hard to tell what it was made of. Apart from that, there wasn't even a chair. Needless to say, there was no need to mention things like a boudoir and a bed. Ningqing did not find it too strange, although Shi Qionghua had said that Su Anjin did not look old, but in his opinion, this Su Anjin was already Su Yingday's grandmother, as such she was definitely an old woman. Of course, an old woman wouldn't decorate her room in a gorgeous way. Besides, he also heard that Su Anjin's corporeal body was in tatters, as such she did not need a bed. Although there was nothing in the room, Ningqing still did not give up. If Su Anjin managed to suppress Shi Qionghua's life essence, then it would definitely be in the vicinity of the place where Su Anjin usually cultivated. Su Anjin would never place Shi Qionghua's life essence in such a far place, it simply did not conform to logic. But before Ningqing entered this place, he had already used his spiritual consciousness to look around, and found that there was absolutely no place outside Su Anjin's immortal cave that could suppress someone's life essence. Ningqing did not spend much time, before he found a hidden entrance to an array formation under the praying mat in the middle of the room. Carefully moving away the praying mat, Ningqing threw out a few array flags, causing a dark entrance to appear in front of him. A cold and gloomy aura leaked out from this hole. Ningqing wanted to use his spiritual consciousness to observe how deep this hole was, but he found that his spiritual consciousness was unexpectedly blocked. Below this hole was a shielding restriction, as well as a forbidden space restriction. In this black hole, his spiritual consciousness could only revolve around his body, and was unable to extend further than that. It was a dark hole, without any steps, without any end. One could not use a magical weapon to fly, nor could one release their spiritual consciousness outside. Even a crucible transformation cultivator would not be able to enter this place. If one was not afraid of death, then they could simply jump down and die directly. Although Ningqing was not a crucible transformation cultivator, but he had something that was much more powerful compared to a crucible transformation cultivator, and that was his twin wings of the heavenly clouds. The moment he saw this dark hole, Ningqing was sure that Shi Qionghua's life essence was suppressed down here. Ningqing did not hesitate to jump down, while simultaneously stimulating the twin wings of the heavenly clouds. The cold and gloomy aura assaulted him, causing Ningqing to quickly descend. He felt that he had fallen nearly 1,000 feet, before he finally landed on the ground. The Severing Emotions Peak was only a few hundred feet high. It could be seen that this place was already at the bottom of the Severing Emotions Peak. It was truly a good place to hide. The surroundings were densely packed with restrictions. If replaced by a person who did not understand array formations, then there would only be a single path for them, that is, courting death. In other words, if Su Anjin was still here, then even if he understood array formations, he would not be able to enter this place. Even if he managed to enter, it would only be a dead end for him. At this time, Ningqing could clearly see that the place he was standing on was a huge white ice stone. In the middle of the ice stone, there was an altar with a radius of about 10 feet. The altar was surrounded by 9 dark red pillars. These 9 pillars were slightly slanted, covering the entire altar, as if they were pressing down on it. In the middle of the altar, there were 9 copper lamps, each of which had a crystal ball slowly rotating above it. At the bottom of the copper lamps, there was an ice-cold aura constantly invading the copper lamps, which was then transmitted to the crystal balls through the copper lamps. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness immediately found a familiar aura. Shi Qionghua's aura was circling around one of the copper lamp's crystal balls. Sure enough, she was being suppressed here. Moreover, it was not just Shi Qionghua who was being suppressed. Su Anjin, that old woman, really was not a good thing. Although Ning Qing did not know how Su Anjin would use these crystal balls, but he knew that once she used them, Shi Qionghua would not have the ability to resist. No wonder Shi Qionghua wanted to go to Heaven's Way. In the face of this kind of suppression, would she be able to escape from Heaven's Way? Ning Cheng was very skeptical. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness swept through the crystal balls one by one, but he did not immediately take away these crystal balls. What Ning Cheng did not expect was that he once again found a familiar aura. The aura of Yin Kongchan's life essence unexpectedly appeared here. No wonder Yin Kongchan was looking for the geocentric 9 Yin essence. Her life essence was also suppressed in the severing emotions peak. After a dozen breaths, Ning Cheng's complexion turned ugly to look at. Wanting to take away the life essence crystal balls in this place without Su Anjin knowing about it, it was absolutely impossible. At least with his current ability, he could not do it. Since he was going to be discovered anyway, Ning Qing simply took out a huge sign, wrote a few words on it and inserted it on the side. Then he was too lazy to carefully crack the array formation, and instead forcibly brought out the cosmic true devil axe, as he smashed it towards the 9 slanted pillars. Boom boom boom. Bursts of explosions sounded out, as Ning Qing grabbed the 9 copper lamps with the crystal balls and put them into his ring, before he instantly rushed out. Now that he had obtained the things he wanted, he now had to escape with the fastest speed possible. Ning Qing no longer had any scruples. In just a twinkling of an eye, he rushed out of Su Anjin's immortal cave, and once again arrived at the dark spiritual grass garden. This time, Ning Qing did not slowly try to break the array formation, as he brought out the cosmic true devil axe, and directly smashed down towards the spiritual grass garden's restriction. Catcha, a sound emerged, as the restriction instantly shattered. This was not a defensive restriction, as such it did not have even half a shred of defensive effect, as such Ning Qing would not have to expend much effort to break it. Ning Qing did not even have the time to observe the spiritual grasses inside. As if he was harvesting wheat, he immediately pulled out all the spiritual grasses and threw them into his ring. Not waiting for Ning Qing to rush out of the palaces falling in love into nothingness, Ning Qing could already feel a powerful spatial fluctuation. At this moment, Ning Qing had pierced through the severing emotions Dao sect sky. The Grand Peace City's auction had not yet begun, but the major academies of the Tian continent had already gathered here. The Severing Emotions Dao sect had already occupied the rest stop closest to the Profound Light auction house. At this time, inside the rest stop, Su Anjin and the many crucible transformation elders of the Severing Emotions Dao sect were discussing matters in a spacious room. A cultivator in the Essence Building realm was trembling as he stood in front of Su Anjin, narrating every single word spoken by that second-generation ancestor of the Red Star Sword faction in the West Lu Spiritual Tea House. Su Anjin, who was listening with a frown, suddenly had a change in her expression, as the black robe on her body began to flutter without any wind. Grandmother. Su Yingde only managed to call out those 2 words, before she did not have the time to say anything else, when she was interrupted by Su Anjin. Immediately return to the academy, we have fallen into the trap of luring the tiger away from the mountain. Elder Taoist, why don't we leave a few people here, while the rest of us go back? A crucible transformation elder had also not finished his words, when he was interrupted by Su Anjin. Let's go, all of us immediately go back, don't leave even a single one behind. If it was something else, then it would have been fine. Even if she did not obtain the geocentric 9 Yin essence, she, Su Anjin, would still have a chance to recover. However, someone unexpectedly sneaked into the Severing Emotions peak, and blew open her 9 revolving soul-subduing grand array. Not only did they smash apart the 9 soul-subduing pillars, they also took away the 9 wisps of soul essence that she had carefully selected for countless years, and even stole her heavenly cusp flower. Compared to the geocentric 9-in essence, these things were undoubtedly 100 times more precious. The auction has not yet started, yet the Severing Emotions Dao sect actually left? Su Anjin took all the elders of the Severing Emotions Dao sect and left the Grand Peace City. Su Anjin had just left the Grand Peace City, when the major academies immediately received the news. The airship of the Severing Emotions Dao sect was intercepted several hundred miles outside the Grand Peace City, and the first to bear the brunt were the Crucible Transformation cultivators from the Floating Snow Palace. In addition to that, the Heavenly Dao Academy, Red Sun Weapon Sect, Yin Yang Dao Sect, Red Star Sword Faction, Star Gathering Mansion, Thousand Zen Hall, Battle Devil Hall and other academies, all of them sent their experts over. Of the 10 major academies, other than the Great Change Island and the newly promoted Rainbow Falls Sword Sect, the rest had all arrived. What do you want to do? The Severing Emotions Dao sect's headmaster had an ugly expression on his face. Su Anjin, who was sitting on the Black Lotus, had an even uglier expression on her face. She knew that she had not only fallen into the trap of luring the tiger away from the mountain, but had also fallen into the hands of these people. If her cultivation had recovered, then these people would only be ants in her eyes. Unfortunately, her cultivation was far from recovering. Chapter 334. Shi Qianghua did not expect that she would come to this place. She could not enter Heaven's Way, even if she was a crucible transformation cultivator from the Severing Emotions Dao sect, she could not enter Heaven's Way. Every time the Heaven's Way opened, it required a lot of precious materials. If she wanted to enter Heaven's Way, she would have to wait for another 2 years. After asking around, Shi Qianghua came to know that ever since the 9-colored mirage tree was dug out by Ning Cheng, the requirements to enter Heaven's Way had become stricter and stricter. Originally, cultivators in the soul sculpting realm and above were eligible to enter, but now that they had yet to reach the crucible transformation realm, they were not allowed to waste the quota to enter Heaven's Way. Moreover, even if they reached the crucible transformation realm, they would still have to enter together. Even if Shi Qianghua was powerful, she would not be able to fight off the people from the Heaven Alliance and rush into Heaven's Way. 2 years later, even her bones would not be there, so how could she enter Heaven's Way? In desperation, Shi Qianghua once again returned to the immortal cave where she and Ning Cheng lived. She did not have any friends, but if she had to say that there was a person she was familiar with, then it would undoubtedly be Ning Cheng. The immortal cave was still concealed by Ning Cheng, so after Shi Qianghua entered, she came to know that Ning Cheng had cultivated in this place for a period of time. After staying here for a few days, she felt that Ning Cheng would not come back. Shi Qianghua decided to find Ning Cheng first. A year's time was very short. She wanted to return to the Severing Emotions Dao sect, as well as the things that Ning Cheng had given her to Ning Cheng. Even if she died, she would not leave these things to Su Anjin. Shi Qianghua came to an ordinary city. She did not need to inquire about it, as she came to know that the Grand Peace City was about to auction off the geocentric 9-in essence and the 9-colored mirage tree branch. These two things belonged to Ning Cheng, and were unexpectedly being sold in the Grand Peace City. Although she did not spend much time with Ning Cheng, she knew that Ning Cheng would not be so reckless as to take out these two things for sale. At this moment, she, along with the other large and small academies, anxiously rushed towards the Grand Peace City. Her purpose was the same as those academies, that is, she wanted to know where these things from the Profound Light auction came from. At this time, what she was most worried about was that these things were not Ning Cheng's. If Ning Cheng had not obtained them from the Profound Light chamber, then Ning Cheng would definitely be in danger. Shi Qianghua controlled the flight-type magical weapon to fly all the way, but before she could reach the Grand Peace City, she felt her life essence loosen up. Shi Qianghua's heart felt as if the feeling of suppression had weakened at this moment. Shi Qianghua's complexion immediately changed. She immediately thought that Su Anjin had swallowed the life essence ahead of time. If Su Anjin wanted to devour the life essence now, then she would have no choice but to return to the Severing Emotions Dao sect, as such she would not even be able to resist. However, Shi Qianghua soon became aware that something was wrong. Not only was she not affected by the strong call and the restraint of her spiritual soul, instead she felt even more relaxed. Did someone take away her suppressed primordial spirit? Shi Qianghua quickly reacted. She believed that it was definitely not done by Su Anjin. If it was Su Anjin, she would have already become a puppet controlled by someone. Would someone save her? She didn't have any friends at all, and even if she had a friend, who could save her suppressed primordial spirit from Su Anjin's hands? If there was someone who would do such a thing, then it would definitely be Ning Cheng, but Ning Cheng's cultivation, no, that's not right. Shi Qianghua immediately understood the reason. Both the geocentric 9-yin essence and the 9-colored mirage tree belonged to Ning Cheng, but these two things were urgently needed by the severing emotions Dao sect Su Anjin. If Ning Cheng took out these two things and put them up for auction, then Su Anjin would definitely go and buy them. Since Su Anjin wanted to go to the Grand Peace City to buy these two things, then she would definitely have to leave the Severing Emotions Dao sect. Once Su Anjin left the Severing Emotions Dao sect, then wouldn't Ning Cheng have the opportunity to go to the Severing Emotions Dao sect to rescue her suppressed primordial spirit? She immediately recalled Ning Cheng's words. He had said that he wanted to go to the Severing Emotions Dao sect. Not good, Ning Cheng had gone to the Severing Emotions Dao sect. Moreover, Ning Cheng had also obtained her suppressed primordial spirit. After understanding this point, Shi Qianghua became even more anxious. Even if Su Anjin was not in the Severing Emotions Dao sect, Ning Cheng would not be able to take away her primordial spirit. After understanding this point, Shi Qianghua's heart suddenly clenched. She suddenly turned in a different direction, and madly flew towards the Severing Emotions Dao sect. She had given her body to Ning Cheng, although she did not have any regrets, but from the bottom of her heart, she did not really love Ning Cheng. That was because she knew that she would not live for long, and wanted to ask Ning Cheng for something. She had given her body to Ning Cheng, saving Ning Cheng's life. It was something that was voluntary, as such there was no need for her to hate Ning Cheng. However, she had never thought that Ning Cheng would unexpectedly treat her in such a way, even though she could not blame him. Ning Cheng had quietly gone to the Severing Emotions Dao sect to steal her suppressed primordial spirit. It was obvious that he did not want her to know about it. If Ning Cheng had fallen, then she would have already entered the Heaven's Way, as such she would not have known about it. If Ning Cheng had not fallen, then Ning Cheng would have definitely preserved her primordial spirit, and would have returned it to her in the future. To avoid being abused and humiliated by Su Anjin. At this moment, Shi Qianghua's heart felt as if it was being grasped by a hand, causing her to have difficulty breathing. She knew that Ning Cheng felt guilty towards her, but she had already forgiven him. Even so, Ning Cheng, for her, still disregarded life and death and went to the Severing Emotions Dao sect. Shi Qianghua, who had always been alone, at this moment, suddenly had a person's shadow appear in her heart. That shadow turned from vague to clear, and finally took shape in her heart. Perhaps she did not realize that before she knew that Ning Cheng had gone to the Severing Emotions Dao sect, Ning Cheng's shadow had already appeared in her heart. Otherwise, she would not have unconsciously returned to the immortal cave from before. Ning Cheng had just rushed out of the Severing Emotions peak, when several sword lights descended. There were several cultivators in the soul sculpting realm, and one of them was a cultivator in the sea opening realm. Ning Cheng's heart sank. He had rushed out of the Severing Emotions peak in just a few breaths of time, yet the Severing Emotions Dao sect unexpectedly reacted so quickly. If another Crucible Transformation cultivator came, then he would not have been able to escape today. At this moment, how could Ning Cheng still care about hiding his means? A blue shadow shot out, while at the same time he crazily stimulated the twin wings of the heavenly clouds. Boom boom boom. Several powerful true essence sword lights bombarded Ning Cheng's everlasting Blue Thunder City's shadow, causing the everlasting Blue Thunder City to instantly dim down. Ning Cheng, who was still in the air, was hit by a huge backlash, causing him to spit out a mouthful of blood, before directly falling down from the sky. Kacha, several sounds rang out, as the bones in Ning Cheng's body broke. Even if Ning Cheng had achieved minor success in body forging, falling from such a high place would still result in serious injuries. Drinking down the mouthful of essence-birthing bamboo pith, Ning Cheng once again forcibly stimulated the twin wings of the heavenly clouds. As long as he could escape from the severing emotions Dao Sec's mountain-protecting grand array, then he would have a way out. Ning Cheng had just left the place, when a few terrifying explosions erupted at the place where he had just fallen a moment ago. If Ning Cheng was even half a breath late, then he would have already turned into slag. With the mountain-protecting grand array in sight, Ning Cheng crazily stimulated the twin wings of the heavenly clouds, while simultaneously sending out several array flags. Boom 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 boom. The rank 6 explosion array formations exploded, rolling up a cloud of dust. The severing emotions Dao Sec's mountain-protecting grand array, under the continuous explosions of the rank 6 explosion array formations, could only shake uncontrollably. However, these explosion array formations still could not tear apart the mountain-protecting grand array. Ning Cheng already knew that the explosion array formations would not be able to tear apart the mountain-protecting grand array in one go, but if the explosion array formations continuously exploded, then this rank 9 mountain-protecting grand array would definitely reveal a flaw, allowing him to escape in the shortest possible time. Not waiting for Ning Cheng to continue to attack the mountain-protecting grand array, a dazzling red light immediately rumbled over. This red light directly locked down the space around Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng had no other choice but to resist this red light head-on. This was definitely a late-stage sea-opening realm cultivator, although the severing emotions Dao sect had very few crucible transformation cultivators, but there were still a lot of sea-opening realm cultivators. Moreover, Ning Cheng also knew that these cultivators would only grow more and more. If he could not escape in a few breaths, then he would never be able to escape again. Unfortunately, the grade of the transmission array talisman that he had refined was too low, as such it was unable to penetrate the severing emotions Dao Sec's mountain-protecting grand array, otherwise he would have already escaped. Although the plan was good, but his strength was still slightly lacking. Ning Cheng did not have enough time to sigh, as he once again sent out the everlasting Blue Thunder City's shadow. Boom! The dazzling red light exploded on the everlasting Blue Thunder City's shadow, causing Ning Cheng's everlasting Blue Thunder City's shadow to instantly dim down. Ning Cheng was once again sent flying by a formidable force, causing him to spurt out a mouthful of blood, while his originally broken bones once again gave out a "catcha" sound. Ning Cheng looked at the increasing number of figures, and knew that his idea of rushing out of the mountain-protecting grand array was already an illusion. He did not hesitate to take out the talisman that he had obtained from the bottom of the Blood River Mountains, and firmly pinched it. At this time, other than entering the bottom of the Blood River Mountains, there was no other way for him to escape. Ning Cheng soon became dumbfounded. With his current cultivation, he unexpectedly was not able to crush this talisman. Ning Cheng cursed the skeleton in his heart. He knew that he had been cheated. That skeleton was afraid that he would use this talisman to escape, so if his cultivation did not reach a certain level, he would not be able to crush this talisman. It must be that the skeleton thought that if his cultivation did not reach a certain level, then he would not be able to obtain the heavenly cusp flower and the geocentric 9 essence. He finally understood the skeleton's words: "Your current cultivation is still low, and I do not intend to ask for your help for now." This meant that if his cultivation did not reach a certain level, then he would not be able to use this talisman. He had always regarded this talisman as a life-saving magical weapon. Knowing that he could not escape, Ning Cheng no longer thought about how to break open the mountain-protecting grand array. In here, killing one was more than enough, killing two was more than enough. When the shadow of the everlasting Blue Thunder City was brought out by Ning Cheng's cosmic true devil axe immediately brought out an axe line. In the midst of these axe lines filled with a sharp killing intent, there were also axe-killing vortexes and axe traces filled with dense axe intent. At this time, Ning Cheng was just like a crazy killing god. If you want to kill him, then you will have to pay for it with your life. Ning Cheng, who did not continue to escape, was absolutely terrifying. Under the protection of the everlasting Blue Thunder City, Ning Cheng's axe line and the axe-killing vortexes brought out a rain of blood. Not to mention soul essence cultivators, even if it was a soul-sculpting cultivator, under Ning Cheng's angry axe, they would also suffer heavy casualties. Ning Qing himself was constantly bombarded by a variety of magical weapons. In just a short time, his entire body was dyed red with blood, even his bones could be seen. Every time he was sent flying, he would rush up again and again. But every time he rushed up, a few people would lose their lives. The defensive power of the everlasting Blue Thunder City was simply too powerful. Even if Ning Qing brought out a shadow, even if it was a sea-opening realm cultivator, they would not be able to break through this kind of terrifying defensive magical weapon. Chapter 335. If not for the everlasting Blue Thunder Fort, Ning Qing might have died more than 100 times over. However, even if he had the everlasting Blue Thunder City, Ning Qing would not be able to withstand the bombardment from so many soul essence cultivators and soul sculpting cultivators. Not to mention that there was also a sea-opening realm cultivator. If it was a one-on-one fight, then a sea-opening realm cultivator could easily kill Ning Qing. When Shi Qianghua rushed into the Severing Emotions Dao sect, the other two crucible transformation cultivators of the Severing Emotions Dao sect also arrived. Ning Cheng's everlasting Blue Thunder City's shadow exploded into nothingness, while Ning Cheng, covered in blood, was sent flying back. But at the scene of the battle, there were bloodstains everywhere, as the fallen disciples of the Severing Emotions Dao sect were strewn all over the place. Shi Qianghua panicked, as she rushed towards Ning Cheng and held him in her hands, while simultaneously using the jade card to open the array formation. Even if Shi Qianghua was a person from the Severing Emotions Dao sect, the two crucible transformation elders who had just arrived did not hesitate to make their move. Ning Cheng had killed many of the outstanding disciples of the Severing Emotions Dao sect, yet Shi Qianghua unexpectedly wanted to take Ning Cheng away. How could this be? Bang, bang. A white light and a black light exploded on Shi Qianghua's back. Shi Qianghua crazily spurted out a mouthful of blood, as she rushed out of the already opened entrance of the array formation, while Ning Cheng, who was still in her hands, had already fainted. Not waiting for Shi Qianghua to escape, the two crucible transformation cultivators who had sneak attacked Shi Qianghua immediately rushed out, and once again attacked Shi Qianghua. Shi Qianghua was held back, but in just a short period of time, she was completely surrounded by the cultivators from the Severing Emotions Dao sect. Shi Qianghua and Ning Cheng were different. Ning Cheng had the personality of someone who wanted to kill him, so he would definitely kill them. When he was trapped in the Severing Emotions Dao sect, he had no choice but to kill them without showing even half a shred of mercy. However, Shi Qianghua did not have the heart to kill like this. The matter of her being suppressed by Su Anjin was not known to others. Relatively speaking, she and the cultivators of the Severing Emotions Dao sect still had the friendship of fellow disciples from the same sect. Not to mention that among the cultivators who had trapped Shi Qianghua, there were a few whose cultivation was not worse than Shi Qianghua's. Even if Shi Qianghua was more powerful than these cultivators, with her holding on to Ning Cheng, her strength would also be greatly reduced. What's more, she had to be lenient in all aspects. In less than the time it took for half an incense stick to burn, Shi Qianghua's hair was already disheveled, while her snow-white robes had already been dyed red. At this time, even if she wanted to leave, she would not be able to do so. Ning Cheng was suddenly awoken by a mouthful of hot blood. He saw Shi Qianghua being held in the middle while he was trapped in the middle, and immediately understood what was going on. Fortunately, they were now out of the Severing Emotions Dao sect. At this time, they had to leave. Otherwise, once Su Anjin came back, even if they died, they would not be able to choose a good way to die. Ning Cheng struggled to take out a stack of talismans and handed it to Shi Qianghua. Senior apprentice Sister Qianghua, hold me tight, and activate it from top to bottom. Just speaking a single sentence, Ning Cheng once again fainted. His injuries were much more serious than he had imagined. Ning Cheng was afraid that when Shi Qianghua used the transmission array talisman, she would accidentally throw herself out. As such, he deliberately reminded Shi Qianghua. Shi Qianghua was already an arrow at the end of its flight. Even if she wanted to kill her, it would be too late. At this time, when Ning Cheng took out a stack of talismans, she did not think much about it, and immediately listened to Ning Cheng's words, as she tightly held on to Ning Cheng, while simultaneously activating the first talisman. With a flash of white light, the next moment she and Ning Qing disappeared from the encirclement of the crowd. Everyone, do not panic, this is a transmission array talisman, not an escape talisman. A few crucible transformation elders will come with me to chase after them. The rest of you will protect the academy, and immediately send a flying sword message to the academy master about what happened inside the academy. A crucible transformation cultivator finished speaking, and immediately chased after the source of the spatial fluctuations. If not for Ning Cheng's transmission array talisman, even if Shi Qionghua managed to escape from the encirclement, she would not be able to escape. Now that Ning Cheng was using one escape talisman after another, all she had to do was to activate the talisman. The people chasing after Shi Qionghua did not think that Shi Qionghua would use one transmission array talisman after another. If there were only one or two, then with Shi Qionghua's current state, it would be very easy for her to catch up. However, the other party was using one transmission array talisman after another. How could they chase after her? At the same time, the Crucible Transformation Elders of the Severing Emotions Dao sect, who could have returned to the academy a long time ago, were currently engaged in a battle with a large number of Crucible Transformation cultivators. With dozens of Crucible Transformation cultivators fighting, it almost turned the surrounding area within a radius of 10,000 miles into fine powder. What was different from the battle with the Severing Emotions Dao sect was that in the Severing Emotions Dao sect, there were many Severing Emotions Dao sect's disciples surrounding Ning Cheng. But here, there were many Crucible Transformation cultivators surrounding the people from the Severing Emotions Dao sect. At the beginning of the battle, the floating snow palace was the main force. After all, the Severing Emotions Dao sect possessed the geocentric 9-yin essence and the 9-colored mirage tree, which was something that everyone had guessed. With the various major academies harboring ulterior motives, and each of them preserving their own strength, the Severing Emotions Dao sect, under the strong leadership of Su Anjin, unexpectedly did not fall into a disadvantageous position. However, as the Crucible Transformation cultivators continued to be killed, the Crucible Transformation cultivators of the major academies also began to go all out. Some of the academy's thoughts had already shifted from snatching the geocentric 9-yin essence, and began to think of using this opportunity to completely destroy the Severing Emotions Dao sect. Both sides fought with a true fire, and for a moment the winds and clouds changed. A large part of the sky was shaken by the explosions of true essence and the bombardment of berserk magical weapons. This was the largest clash between Crucible Transformation cultivators in the Tian continent in hundreds of years. If not for the Severing Emotions Dao sect's Taoist elder Taoist Su Anjin activating her secret technique, killing several Crucible Transformation cultivators and rushing out of the encirclement, the Severing Emotions Dao sect might have been completely annihilated in this battle. This battle caused the sun and moon to lose their luster, causing the entire Tian continent to shake. Of the 12 Crucible Transformation cultivators from the Severing Emotions Dao sect, 9 of them perished. Of the remaining 3 people, Headmaster Shi Henyun was seriously injured, while Taoist elder Taoist Su Anjin was even more severely injured, to the point that her foundation was completely damaged. As such, there was little hope for her to recover. Of the Crucible Transformation cultivators who had followed the Severing Emotions Dao sect to the Grand Peace City, other than Su Yingde, who was under the protection of Su Anjin, the rest had all perished. The only one who suffered minor injuries was a Crucible Transformation elder. Of the 9 Crucible Transformation elders from the Floating Snow Palace, including the 4 palace masters, 3 of them perished, while one of them only had his life essence remaining. Among the 3 who perished, one of them was the palace master of the Floating Snow Palace. The Red Sun Weapon Sect, the Yin Yang Dao Sect, the Star Gathering Mansion and the Battle Devil Hall each lost a Crucible Transformation cultivator. The Red Star Sword faction, in order to show that they did not have any connection with the Severing Emotions Dao sect, attacked the Severing Emotions Dao sect second only to the Floating Snow Palace, resulting in the death of 2 Crucible Transformation cultivators. In this battle, a total of 18 Crucible Transformation cultivators from the entire Tian continent had perished, while the corporeal bodies of several Crucible Transformation cultivators had shattered, leaving only their life essence. During the course of the battle, everyone had gone berserk, but after the battle, they calmed down. Everyone started to think about some of the connections between the outbreak of the battle. Because of this battle, not only the academies of the entire Tian continent were shaken, even the higher-ups of the Heaven Alliance were shaken out of their mountains. However, no one knew whether the Severing Emotions Dao sect really had the geocentric 9-yin essence and the 9-colored mirage tree, because the Severing Emotions Dao sect had immediately sealed their mountain gates the moment they returned to the academy. Sealing their mountain gates meant that in the future in the Tian continent, they would lose any news about the Severing Emotions Dao sect. No one knew when the Severing Emotions Dao sect would come out again. Severing Emotions Dao sect, Su Anjin, who originally still had the appearance of a young girl, at this moment looked a lot older. Inside the huge discussion hall, at this moment there were only 4 crucible transformation cultivators, while the rest were cultivators in the sea opening realm. It could be said that in this battle, the Severing Emotions Dao sect had not only suffered heavy losses, it had almost reached the point where it was completely destroyed. By Su Anjin's side, there was a sign with a few words written on it, "Do not provoke this young master." Moreover, this sign was taken from the place where Su Anjin had suppressed her soul essence. From this, it could be seen that the person who left behind this sign was the same person who had sneak attacked the Severing Emotions Dao sect, and was also the one who had taken away the 9 soul lamps. Next to this sign was a huge crystal ball. Inside the crystal ball was a clear image. It was none other than Ning Cheng's image. Who is this person? Su Anjin's voice turned even more hoarse, with a trace of insufficient true essence. I have seen Ning Cheng before. This person should not be Ning Cheng. Moreover, he can instantly kill a soul essence cultivator, which is almost equivalent to an intermediate stage soul sculpting cultivator. Even if Ning Cheng is more powerful, it is impossible for him to be this powerful. A crucible transformation female cultivator spoke in a sinking voice. Su Anjin did not directly answer the words of this crucible transformation female cultivator, but rather looked at Su Yingde sitting beside her and spoke. Yingde, you and Ning Cheng are more familiar with each other. Do you think it is him? Su Yingde stared at the image on the crystal ball for a long time, before she spoke. Grandmother, I am not sure. However, the possibility of it being Ning Cheng is very high. First, Ning Cheng has the twin wings of the heavenly clouds, as such only he can enter that place. At the same time, he is also very proficient in array formations. Initially, when we were looking for the geocentric 9-yin essence, it was also because he was proficient in array formations. Moreover, his strength is far beyond those in the same realm. Moreover, it is not unusual for his appearance to change after advancing to the soul essence realm. Since that is the case, then why do you still say that you are not sure? Su Anjin's tone turned a bit cold. Su Yingde shuddered, before she bowed and spoke. I have been together with Ning Cheng for a long time, as such I am very familiar with Ning Cheng's character. He is not a bloodthirsty person. Even if Yin Kongchan and I schemed against him, he still saved the 2 of us in the end. In the Forsaken Land, when he left the Yaluan city, he could have easily killed the Yaluan city's city master and even destroyed the city, but he did not kill a single person, not even Princess Man, who wanted to kill him. Moreover, I fell in love with him, and he also has my emotion-severing sword on him. Even if he were to live, he would not be able to have his current achievements. Besides, a person who was burned by the flames of lust, I also think that he would not be able to live. I think that someone might have obtained something from him, so. What if he did not fall in love with you, and there was a woman who used her purine body to save him? Su Anjin suddenly spoke. Su Yingde's complexion immediately changed. If Ning Cheng did not fall in love with her, then she would only be trapped in her own cocoon, and her future fate could be imagined. Su Anjin no longer paid any attention to Su Yingde, as she glanced at the people in the main hall and spoke. This person should most likely be Ning Cheng, Elder Taoist. If this person really is Ning Cheng, then it would not be difficult to explain. It's just that I do not understand, why would my Severing Emotions Dao sect's Shi Qianghua turn against the sect for an enemy of the Severing Emotions Dao sect? The Crucible Transformation Elder who had just said that it was unlikely that this person was Ning Cheng, once again stood up and spoke. Su Anjin nodded to this Crucible Transformation Elder and spoke. In the future, I will personally capture Ning Cheng and Shi Qianghua, and then kneel here to interrogate them. Who knows if that slut Shi Qianghua would shamelessly dual cultivate with Ning Cheng or not. Su Anjin's tone suddenly changed, and became even more severe as she spoke. Now that my severing emotions Dao sect's vitality has been greatly damaged, we can only choose to seal off our mountains. This is a disgrace to my severing emotions Dao sect. From today onwards, I will impart cultivation methods to the realms above the crucible transformation realm. The moment my severing emotions Dao sect reopens its mountain gates, it will be the time for us to collect our debts. Chapter 336. Her life essence had been suppressed for many years, causing her to feel helpless. But Ning Cheng, in just a few months, managed to retrieve her suppressed life essence and deliver it into her hands. Not only that, he even brought the geocentric 9-yin essence over. Shi Qianghua immediately felt the heat coming from Ning Cheng. She knew what Ning Cheng wanted to do, but she did not move. Instead, she clung onto Ning Cheng even more tightly, as she unexpectedly had some expectations. He had lured many factions to compete for the geocentric 9-yin essence. If his plan succeeded, then at this moment he would become a public enemy. Even the Rainbow Fall Sword sect would not be able to go back. Ning Cheng swallowed a few pills, before taking out a few more pills and putting them into Shi Qianghua's mouth. After his true essence recovered a bit, he quickly picked up Shi Qianghua and stimulated the twin wings of the heavenly clouds, instantly leaving this place. Fortunately, no one had passed by here, and fortunately, there were no monstrous beasts, otherwise, he and Shi Qianghua would have been finished. However, Ning Cheng did not understand why the people from the Severing Emotions Dao sect did not chase after them. Although he had a lot of good things, but he only had a few high-level healing pills. In order to let his injuries recover as soon as possible, after settling Shi Qianghua down, Ning Cheng operated his cultivation method, and automatically entered into the state of cultivation of the mysterious yellow formless. Ning Cheng felt a bit awkward under Shi Qianghua's gaze. He took out a crystal ball and spoke, "Senior apprentice Sister Qianghua, this is what I got from Su Anjin. You can fuse with it, from now on you will no longer be under the control of this old granny." Shi Qianghua was not good at expressing her emotions. She just quietly looked at Ning Cheng, and after a while, spoke in a soft voice, "I am a dying person, why did you take such a big risk to go to the Severing Emotions Dao sect? Moreover, you did not even tell me." When Ning Cheng woke up, he smelled a pungent smell of blood. There was a familiar softness in his arms, causing Ning Cheng to immediately remember the things that had happened before. Ning Cheng calmed down. This place turned out to be an open field, and was not far from the location of the last transmission array. It was clear that after Shi Qianghua brought him here, she could no longer hold on, and fainted. However, Ning Cheng quickly sobered up. Shi Qianghua's body obviously had not recovered, he could feel it. The cyan-robed Grand Palace Master swept his gaze over the rest of the people before continuing, "Now we will continue on to the Grand Peace City to participate in the auction. In any case, we must obtain the geocentric 9-yin essence. Also, the person who schemed against this war was definitely not simple. Although our fluttering snow palace regards this person as a great enemy, we absolutely cannot beat the grass and alert the snake when we are not confident. If you want to deal with this kind of people, then you must kill them in one shot, otherwise there will be no end of trouble in the future." The Severing Emotions Dao sect is an example. Ning Cheng immediately recovered, as he hugged Shi Qianghua even tighter. At this time his injuries were completely healed, coupled with the fact that Shi Qianghua also did not hold anything back towards him. Shi Qianghua's soft and plump body made the hot-blooded Ning Cheng once again become restless. This time, there was no burning desire, nor was there any yang qi poison, but Ning Cheng could not help it. He did not think that after the two of them had a substantial relationship, Shi Qianghua would have to marry him. On Earth, even if there was a child, the woman would still leave if she wanted to, not to mention having a substantial relationship. What's more, there were still some doubts about the substantial relationship between the two of them. The cyan-robed Grand Palace Master still spoke out calmly, "From the moment I saw Su Anjin, I knew that this matter was a trap set up by someone else. However, I still have to jump into this trap." The Grand Palace Master's expression remained indifferent. This time, the Fluttering Snow Palace, with the help of the other academies, managed to inflict heavy losses on the Severing Emotions Dao sect, which was much more powerful compared to the Fluttering Snow Palace. However, because the Fluttering Snow Palace lost 3 Crucible Transformation cultivators, it cast a shadow over this happy occasion. Ning Cheng. A cry emerged from the bottom of Shi Qionghua's heart, with a hint of whisper and lightness. She gently leaned against Ning Cheng's body. She was a few years older than Ning Cheng, and her cultivation was also far superior to Ning Cheng. But at this time, in her heart, Ning Cheng was her world. She reached out and took the crystal ball that Ning Cheng gave her, while her other hand slowly caressed Ning Cheng's face. Her eyes turned slightly red as she spoke, "Don't call me senior apprentice sister, just call me Qianghua." A sweet fragrance and softness entered his arms. Even if Ning Cheng's injuries had not yet recovered, he still closed his eyes. Although he and Shi Qianghua had skin to skin before, it was the first time that he knew that Shi Qianghua's body was so soft. Or rather, the last time he was together with Shi Qianghua, he simply did not think about anything else. The crystal ball was in Shi Qianghua's hands, while the trace of life essence overflowed and a dozen drops of geocentric 9-yin essence merged into Shi Qianghua's body. Qianghua. Ning Cheng subconsciously pulled Shi Qianghua's hand. Shi Qianghua did not have the strength of a crucible transformation cultivator, and was easily pulled over by Ning Cheng. "Big sister, I think we might have fallen into a trap this time. If I have not guessed wrongly, then the Severing Emotions Dao sect should not have obtained Ning Cheng's things." Sang Jizhu broke the silence and spoke. Ning Cheng opened his mouth, but did not know how to answer Shi Qianghua. In his heart, Shi Qianghua was his woman, as such it was only right and proper for him to help his woman get back her things. However, as for what other people were thinking in their hearts, he simply did not know. "Senior apprentice sister Qianghua, your injuries?" Ning Cheng asked in a pleasantly surprised voice. "So, this time we must have fallen into a trap. Although my floating snow palace lost 3 crucible transformation cultivators, but this person's scheme can be considered as helping my floating snow palace through a crisis." When Ning Cheng opened his eyes again, he found that Shi Qianghua was sitting opposite him, staring at him intently. Shi Qianghua had already changed her robes, and apart from her slightly pale complexion, one could not see any signs of serious injuries. This trace of suppressed life essence was something that Ning Cheng had exchanged for with his life. Without Ning Cheng, even if she died, it would have been a miserable death. With her life essence suppressed by Su Anjin, she would not have even had the opportunity to end her own life. Shi Qianghua looked at the crystal ball in Ning Cheng's hands, as a warm and comfortable feeling welled up in her heart. If she had obtained this crystal ball before, it would have been the most exciting thing in her life. But now, although she was excited, she also felt some fear in her heart. Ning Cheng had almost fallen in the Severing Emotions Dao sect. Floating Snow Palace. "You should heal your injuries first. Once your injuries are healed, the first thing you need to do is to fuse with your life essence, and then I have something to tell you." Ning Cheng held Shi Qianghua's shoulder. The same scene was also happening in the other major academies, although the major academies were aware that they had fallen into a trap. But apart from the Severing Emotions Dao sect, no one could be sure who had plotted against them. At this time, the major academies acted as if nothing had happened, as they once again gathered in the Grand Peace City, in order to compete for the geocentric 9-yin essence and the 9-colored bamboo tree. Secondly, our strength is not as good as the Severing Emotions Dao sect. Now that we have the help of other academies, we can take advantage of this opportunity to deal a heavy blow to the Severing Emotions Dao sect, which would avoid a disaster for the Floating Snow Palace in the future. Moreover, we can also rope in the other academies, so that we can share a common enemy. 2 hours later, the exhausted Ning Cheng dug out an immortal cave in a very secluded valley, and arranged several concealment array formations to completely conceal the immortal cave. Only then did he bring Shi Qianghua into the immortal cave to heal. He first helped Shi Qianghua clean the bloodstains on her body, and then took out the essence-birthing bamboo pith and poured it into Shi Qianghua's mouth. After he sobered up a bit, he saw that the person in his bosom really was Shi Qianghua. Shi Qianghua was completely unconscious, moreover her injuries were even more serious than his. If that's the case, then we really have to thank this person. A crucible transformation elder spoke up. After the time it took for half an incense stick to burn, Shi Qianghua finally opened her eyes. Her originally unparalleled beautiful face was now filled with even more of an immortal charm. Ning Qing stared at Shi Qianghua blankly, as he unexpectedly felt a sense of inferiority in his heart. Even elder sister Shu, at this time, could not compare to Shi Qianghua's elegant and refined beauty. The Grand Palace Master nodded and spoke, "What Kong Chan said is right, with Su Anjin's prideful personality. After obtaining those things, she would definitely restore her body and cultivation. At the same time, she would also use strong means to completely destroy our floating snow palace. She would not beat around the bush, and would even participate in the auction." Yin Kongchan stood up and spoke, "If Su Anjin had obtained Ning Cheng's things, then she would not have come out with a broken body. She must have already restored her cultivation and corporeal body. In fact, Su Anjin has not fully recovered from her injuries, so she must not have obtained Ning Cheng's things." Saying that, she looked at Yin Kongchan sitting on the side and asked, "Kongchan, do you know why?" Just an hour later, Ning Qing could feel the changes in Shi Qianghua. He seemed to be able to feel that Shi Qianghua had gained something, but he was not able to figure out what it was. Shi Qianghua's entire body felt light and lively, and no longer had that kind of heavy feeling from before. When he was besieged by the Severing Emotions Dao sect, and was completely unable to resist, Shi Qianghua had arrived, and then rescued him. Ning Qing felt that time passed too quickly. Together with Shi Qianghua, a month's time had unexpectedly passed by in just a blink of an eye. Today was the day when Shi Qianghua would be fusing with her life essence. As such, Ning Cheng had already placed several array formations around the immortal cave, while also helping to protect Shi Qianghua. The cyan-robed Grand Palace Master sneered, "Thank him. This person schemed against my floating snow palace. In the future, if we know who this person is, my floating snow palace will definitely kill this person first." For the Severing Emotions Dao sect to seal off the mountain, it must be because something else happened. Now that the Severing Emotions Dao sect does not pose any threat to us, the first thing that my floating snow palace would want to investigate is who schemed against us. No one who schemed against my floating snow palace would be able to stay out of it unscathed. Now, Ning Cheng had also been in love for a few years. Shi Qianghua's eyes were slightly red. As she took the initiative to reach out and stroke his face, her eyes were filled with love and worry. Even if he was slow, he knew that Shi Qianghua had already regarded him as her man. Or rather, if she really entered heaven's way, then even if Ning Qing fell, she would not even know about it. She would not know that in this world, there was a person who would die specifically for her. Since birth, no one had ever regarded her life as more important than their own. Shi Qianghua did not urge Ning Cheng. She carefully looked at Ning Cheng's face, and found that Ning Cheng's face had changed a little compared to before. She seemed to want to see every single change in Ning Cheng's body clearly, as she paid close attention to him. 2 lines of tears flowed down. Shi Qianghua had never thought that she would not only recover her soul, but also find her man. At this moment, nothing could compare to the excitement and satisfaction in her heart. Nothing could compare to the importance of Ning Cheng in her heart. Chapter 337. Blood River. Heaven Opening Talisman. Shi Qianghua, who was leaning on Ning Cheng's side, after hearing Ning Cheng's words, asked in amazement. There was still a trace of redness on her face, but Ning Cheng's words were too shocking for her. That's right, the skeleton at the bottom of the Blood River not only had an incomparably huge golden-colored opening heaven talisman, but he also said that as long as I can find the heavenly cusp flower and the geocentric 9-yin essence, I would be able to obtain it. I can cross the plain and return to my hometown. Originally, I wanted to take you back to the Lu continent, find Luofei, and then go back together. For now, I think that we should wait a little longer. Ning Qing did not hide anything from Shi Qianghua. Shi Qianghua quickly asked, "Did you snatch the heavenly cusp flower from the Severing Emotions Dao sect?" If so, hurry up and show it to me. Ning Qing did not have much understanding towards the heavenly cusp flower. This level of spiritual grasp was already beyond the scope of his knowledge. Hearing about Shi Qionghua's flowers, he immediately handed over the jade box containing the heavenly cusp flowers to Shi Qionghua. Shi Qionghua opened the jade box containing the heavenly cusp flowers, and spoke with a sigh, "Sure enough." "What's wrong?" Ning Qing asked nervously. Shi Qionghua closed the jade box and spoke, "This heavenly cusp flower has not yet fully matured. It would take at least 5 to 6 months for it to mature. The reason why Su Anjin had not made a move on me until now, was because this heavenly cusp flower had not fully matured. Her heavenly cusp flower has already been transplanted once, and now that it has been so carelessly pulled out by you, there is no possibility of it continuing to mature. I think that Skeleton's cultivation and spiritual abilities are definitely far stronger than Su Anjin's. Even Su Anjin can't use the heavenly cusp flower, so if I give it to that skeleton, then I don't think that it would be able to be used." Ning Qing on hearing Shi Qionghua's words froze for a moment, before he rubbed his forehead and spoke, drawing water with a bamboo basket. "However, that skeleton was a bit abominable. This time, if it weren't for you, Qionghua, saving me, how could I still be alive? If I really can't go back to Earth, you and Luofei can accompany me. If I want to stay here, then I can stay here." Although he believed that the skeleton was not a thick-skinned person, but because he did not crush the jade talisman and almost died in the Severing Emotions Dao sect, he felt a bit of dissatisfaction towards the skeleton. Originally, according to his calculations, even if he couldn't stay in the Heaven continent in the end, he could at least keep his life. As a result, if not for Shi Qionghua not being able to enter the Heaven's Way, he would have already lost his life. Thinking of not going back, Ning Qing sighed. Rulin had already graduated from university, so she should be able to take care of herself. Shi Qionghua grabbed Ning Cheng's hand and spoke, "I am not very clear about the interfaces and planes. Since the plane was so difficult to pass through, there should be strict restrictions on one's cultivation. Even with the help of the Heaven Opening Talisman, without a certain level of cultivation, you might not be able to return. That skeleton might not have plotted against you, or it might have considered this point." "That is possible." Ning Qing muttered to himself. He also felt that this skeleton was not a sinister person. He didn't even covet his mysterious yellow bead, so why would he play tricks on such a trivial matter? Hopefully, he was thinking too much. After experiencing a lot of things, Ning Qing always liked to make assumptions about things. Hesitating for a moment, Ning Qing finally asked, "Do you know where Su Anjin's heavenly cusp flower came from?" "Even if you did not ask, I would have told you, Su Anjin's heavenly cusp flower came from the sifting orchid star. Not only the Severing Emotions Dao sect's heavenly cusp flower, even the Floating Snow Palace's refining spirit snow and ice domain, the Rainbow Fall Sword sect's small spiritual domain, the Heavenly Dao Academy's Heavenly Dao Public Square's spiritual vein, the Scarlet Sun Weapon sect's Scarlet Sun Furnace and many other things, all of them came from the sifting orchid star." Ning Qing was shocked as he interrupted Shi Qionghua's words. What kind of place is the sifting orchid star? How could it have so many good things? Besides, how big is the small spiritual domain? How could the Rainbow Fall Sword sect take it from the sifting orchid star to the academy? Shi Qionghua explained, "If it was now, even if all the crucible transformation cultivators of the I Ching mainland were to take action, I estimate that they would not be able to take away the small spiritual domain. I heard that the Rainbow Fall Sword sect's small spiritual domain was not taken away by the cultivators of the I Ching mainland, but rather a cultivator with a powerful spiritual ability, who casually grabbed it and used it to cultivate in the I Ching mainland. Later, after this cultivator left, the small spiritual domain was used by the Rainbow Fall Sword sect's headmaster, turning it into the Academy Mystic Realm." Ning Qing gave a sigh. For the Rainbow Fall Sword sect to be able to keep the small spiritual domain, it can be considered as having a bit of skill. Shi Qionghua showed a faint smile. "You are a disciple of the Rainbow Fall Sword sect. I guess you do not know how terrifying the Rainbow Fall Sword sect's Rui Baishan is. I once heard Su Anjin say that if the I Ching mainland had 10 most terrifying people, then Rui Baishan would definitely be one of them." If you were to compress these 10 people by half, then Rui Baishan would still be among them. Ning Qing sucked in a mouthful of cold air. The first time he saw Rui Baishan, he felt that in front of Rui Baishan, he did not have any secrets to speak of. Although he knew that Rui Baishan was powerful, but he did not think that Rui Baishan would be powerful to this extent. He was sure that Shi Qianghua would not lie to him. Even Su Anjin was afraid of such a person. Just how terrifying was he? Qianghua, tell me about the Sifting Orchid Star. Ning Qing already had a plan in mind to go to the Sifting Orchid Star. He and Shi Qianghua together, with their strength, they should be able to reach the Sifting Orchid Star. Shi Qianghua nodded. The Sifting Orchid Star is the only extraterrestrial mainland in the Yixing mainland that can be reached. The area is not smaller than the Yixing mainland. Moreover, it has innumerable precious spiritual grasses, as well as countless mystic cultivation grounds. Many of the crucible transformation cultivators of the Yixing mainland were able to obtain an inheritance in the Sifting Orchid Star, which allowed them to rise to prominence. However, the Sifting Orchid Star is not suitable for cultivation, nor is it suitable for living. There are spatial turbulences everywhere, volcanoes, thunder, and hurricanes wreaking havoc everywhere. Even if you find a suitable place for cultivation, the next moment, spatial turbulences might suddenly roll up, sweeping you away. What is even more terrifying is that there are countless advanced-level monstrous beasts in the Sifting Orchid Star. How do we get to the Sifting Orchid Star? We have to go to the Sifting Orchid Star. Ning Qing spoke with certainty. If he went to the Sifting Orchid Star, then Shi Qianghua would definitely go together with him. Shi Qianghua sighed and spoke, if I could go to the Sifting Orchid Star, I would have already gone there. The transmission array to the Sifting Orchid Star is one of the furthest transmission arrays in the Yixing mainland, and is also guarded by the Heaven Alliance. Several hundred years ago, nearly 100 crucible transformation cultivators disappeared from the Sifting Orchid Star, causing the Heaven Alliance to not allow crucible transformation cultivators to enter the Sifting Orchid Star. Only cultivators in the Soul Essence Realm, Soul Sculpting Realm and Sea Opening Realm can enter the Sifting Orchid Star. Moreover, to go to the Sifting Orchid Star, one would need to pay an extremely high fee, 3 best quality spirit stones, as well as 10 million high-grade spirit stones. The Sifting Orchid Star does not have a transmission array. As such, after going to the Sifting Orchid Star, one can only wait until they advance to the Crucible Transformation Realm before returning. Unless one has an extremely tough mind, there are not many cultivators who are willing to go to the Sifting Orchid Star. Hearing that Shi Qianghua could not go, Ning Qing immediately put down this idea. He thought for a moment, before taking out the other 8 crystal balls and spoke, I also obtained a part of the life essence of the other 8 people from Su Anjin. These things are useless to me, so how can I return them to others? Shi Qianghua was very much in favor of Ning Cheng's idea of returning these life essence to others. She had experienced the suppression of her life essence, as such she was very clear about the hardships involved. She took out a jade strip and handed it to Ning Cheng. This is a soul-nourishing array. As long as you arrange a soul-nourishing array, you can place these life essences inside. After the owner of these life essences cultivates to a certain degree, they would then take the initiative to come here, and take away their life essences. Ning Cheng also felt that this method was good. He was worried that the person who came here first would take away their own life essence, and then ruin the other people's life essence. As such, he deliberately separated the 8 life essences. Even if it was Yin Kongchan's life essence, Ning Cheng was not interested in holding it in his hands. However, he also did not deliberately harm Yin Kongchan. At least Yin Kongchan had reminded him a few times. North Light Town, this was a small town that was infinitely close to the Yixing Ocean. There were many adventurers and low-leveled cultivators in this place. Ning Cheng and Shi Qianghua had disguised themselves as a pair of ordinary rogue cultivator husband and wife. At this time, Ning Cheng and Shi Qianghua were already aware of what had happened. They had just come out of their seclusion, when they heard about the major event that had occurred in the Grand Peace City's auction. 18 crucible transformation cultivators had fallen, while the 8 major academies had participated in the war, causing the Severing Emotions Dao sect to seal off their mountains. This kind of thing did not need to be inquired about, as it was being discussed everywhere. Moreover, many academies and even the Heaven Alliance were investigating a cultivator surnamed Kang. After this cultivator provoked a war between several major academies, he then disappeared without a trace. Qianghua, it looks like we cannot continue to stay in the Tian continent. If it goes on like this, we will be discovered sooner or later. Why don't you enter my miniature world, and I will take you to the sifting orchid star. Ning Qing came to know that everyone was searching for his whereabouts, and understood in his heart that he had to leave the Tian continent. At least, before he cultivated to the crucible transformation realm, he could not stay here. Shi Qianghua was moved in her heart. She had always wanted to go to the sifting orchid star, because the sifting orchid star contained the secret of her birth. However, she had no way to go there. Now that Ning Qing said that he could use his miniature world to take her to the sifting orchid star, she immediately felt her heart move. However, she was still a little worried. If Ning Qing was recognized by the Heaven Alliance, then it would not be a good thing. At this time, a stream of light descended from a distance. Two people came down from a silver airship-type magical weapon. It was a man and a woman. The man was incomparably handsome, with an abundance of essence, qi, and spirit, with an extraordinary bearing. With just a glance, one could immediately tell that he came from a major academy. Moreover, his cultivation was also not low, at the second level of soul sculpting realm. The woman was at the soul essence second level, with a well-defined figure, enough to make any female cultivator jealous. Not only that, but her appearance was also not inferior to Yin Kongchan. Her hair was tied up in a bun for female cultivators, with a hairpin on her head that gave off a faint glow. Ning Qing knew these two people, as such it was not strange for Li Lingfan to come here. What made Ning Qing surprised was how could Chai Chudai also appear in the Tian continent. Chai Chudai was someone he had met in the Thunder Domain Marsh. This woman was extremely vicious, and had initially wanted to plot against him together with Lu Fei. The result was that in the Thunder City, before Lu Fei died, she ended up taking off all her clothes and escaping. Ning Qing also remembered that this woman had a 3-inch long cyan-colored crescent moon pattern on her lower abdomen. This crescent moon pattern had a faint flicker of thunder, which looked very strange. Moreover, this woman did not care even half a bit about her naked body in front of others, and even remembered to kill her companion Lu Fei. This definitely showed that she was a ruthless person. Ning Qing suddenly whispered in Shi Qianghua's ear, "I just saw an acquaintance, Li Lingfan of the Heavenly Tao Academy, let's go ask him." Shi Qianghua quickly pulled Ning Qing and spoke, "Ning Qing, the Heavenly Tao Academy and the Heaven Alliance have a great relationship. Let's not talk too much with the disciples of the Heavenly Tao Academy." Chapter 338. While Ning Qing and Shi Qianghua were talking, Li Lingfan had already noticed Ning Qing and Shi Qianghua. He was a soul sculpting realm cultivator, yet Ning Qing's gaze fell on him with some hesitation. How could he not notice it? Moreover, although Shi Qianghua was wearing an ordinary dress, with a veil covering her face, but that kind of peerless temperament made him feel that Shi Qianghua was not an ordinary person. Seeing that Li Lingfan had already noticed him, Ning Qing sent a sound transmission to Shi Qianghua and spoke, "Li Lingfan is still a good friend. Moreover, even if he bites the hand that feeds him, he would not be able to do anything to us." Since Ning Qing had spoken like this, Shi Qianghua also did not continue to dissuade him. "This friend looks extraordinary. I wonder if we can find a place to sit." Ning Qing took the initiative to step forward and cupped his fists before sending a sound transmission to Li Lingfan, "Brotherly, this Ning did not expect to meet you here." Li Lingfan was still wondering why a puny profound core cultivator would dare to take the initiative to talk to him. When he heard Ning Cheng's sound transmission, he immediately understood, and quickly spoke up, "Of course, I have just arrived at the North Light town, and was just looking for someone to inquire about the situation here." As Chai Chudi's spiritual consciousness swept over Ning Cheng's body, she felt that Ning Cheng was somewhat familiar. Unfortunately, Ning Cheng's strength was much stronger than her. Even if she was already at the soul essence second level, she still could not see anything. It was reasonable to say that Li Lingfan was the dazzling star of the Heavenly Tao Academy, and also had the cultivation of second level of soul sculpting realm, so why would he be so polite to a profound core realm cultivator? Chai Chuti's gaze swept towards Shi Qionghua at the side of Ning Cheng, as she sneered in her heart. It was definitely because of Shi Qionghua without a doubt. Li Lingfan and Ning Cheng seemed to have hit it off at first sight, moreover both sides unexpectedly did not even ask each other's names. Chai Chudai had also just met Li Lingfan, as such she did not have much to say. Shi Qionghua followed behind Ning Cheng and did not say anything. As the four people entered the North Light town, Li Lingfan and Ning Cheng were talking in the front, while Chai Chudai and Shi Qionghua followed behind. Chai Chudai tried several times to strike up a conversation with Shi Qionghua, but Shi Qionghua did not have any intention to speak. After the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, the four of them entered a pretty good spirit tea house in the town. Li Lingfan turned to Chai Chudai and said, "Junior apprentice sister Chudai, I and this friend of mine feel like old friends at first sight, so we are going to the private room to discuss a few things. You can wait for me in the lobby on the first floor." Chai Chudai was getting more and more dissatisfied in her heart. Li Lingfan unexpectedly, for a strange profound core cultivator, let a woman like her wait for him in the hall. However, she did not show any of her displeasure. She still said with a smile, "Senior brother Lingfan, go ahead. I'll wait for you here." Ning Cheng did not speak to Shi Qionghua, but Shi Qionghua took the initiative to speak up. "My husband, I will wait for you here." Her voice was crisp and sweet, instantly attracting the attention of everyone in the hall. The people in the hall were obviously not fools. One look at Li Lingfan's temperament and they knew that he was the kind of person that they could not afford to offend. After these people glanced at Shi Qionghua, they immediately retracted their gazes. After Li Lingfan and Ning Cheng arrived at a booth, Li Lingfan immediately activated a soundproofing restriction, before anxiously speaking up, "Elder brother Ning, you really are bold, to even dare to appear here. When I heard that Su Yingde had severed her emotions, I was extremely worried. Now many academies are looking for you, even my Heavenly Tao Academy is also looking for you. If elder brother Ning listens to me, then quickly take your Tao companion and leave this place." When Ning Cheng heard Li Lingfan's words, he immediately knew that he had not gambled wrong. Li Lingfan was truly a good friend. Moreover, these words of persuasion also came from the bottom of his heart. "Many thanks for elder brother Li's concern, I will soon leave this place." Ning Cheng spoke with a smile, while simultaneously taking out 2 pots of spiritual wine brewed from the spiritual enhancement True Nectar. Li Lingfan sighed, "Unfortunately, I do not have any way to help you. There are already people who suspect that the person surnamed Kang who went to the auction was you." Ning Cheng did not answer the last sentence, and just spoke up, "I won't hide it from elder brother Li, the reason I came looking for you this time, is because I really want your help." Li Lingfan immediately spoke up, "Elder brother Ning, as long as I can help elder brother Ning, this Li Lingfan will not decline even half a point." "Many thanks, elder brother Li." Ning Cheng thanked him and spoke, "I want to take my Tao companion to the Sifting Orchid Star, but because I am afraid that the Heaven Alliance would recognize me, I would like to ask you to help me with this." Li Lingfan was surprised in his heart and quickly spoke up, "Elder brother Ning, going to the Sifting Orchid Star is a narrow escape. Are you sure that you want to go to the Sifting Orchid Star?" Ning Cheng helplessly spoke up, "Brother Li, you also saw it, no matter how much my Tao companion and I change our appearances, we would definitely be recognized by others. Other than going to the Sifting Orchid Star, I really have no other way." Li Lingfan also gave out a sigh. If the transmission array between the Lu continent and the Tian continent had not opened, then brother Ning could have gone to the Lu continent with your Tao companion. "Did the transmission array from the Lu continent to the Tian continent open?" Ning Cheng asked in surprise. Li Lingfan nodded and spoke, "Yes, many of the cultivators who want to enter Heaven's Way come from the Lu continent. Moreover, there were also many sect disciples with good qualifications who had come to the Heaven continent. Did you see the female cultivator with me just now? Her name is Chai Chudai, and she also just came from the Lu continent." Saying that, Li Lingfan took out a black jade card and a jade strip before handing them to Ning Cheng and spoke, "This jade card was given to me by my academy, it is the token to go to the Sifting Orchid Star. In any case, I do not have any plans to go to the Sifting Orchid Star, so you can have it. This jade strip contains the star sky chart from the Sifting Orchid Star to the I Ching mainland. In the future, if you can cultivate to the Crucible Transformation realm, you can then use this star sky chart to return to the I Ching mainland." After a pause, Li Lingfan continued to explain, "This black jade card is something that only a few disciples of the 10 major academies possess. Moreover, using this jade card does not require you to use the spirit stones for the transmission array, nor would they investigate your identity. Therefore, even if they know that you are in disguise, they would not check it." Ning Cheng was just about to take the jade card, when he heard Li Lingfan say that this jade card was so precious, he quickly spoke up, "Brother Li, this is too precious." Li Lingfan showed a faint smile and spoke, "Brother Ning, even if it is precious, how can it be more precious than my life? If Brother Ning regards this Li Lingfan as a friend, then please accept it." When Ning Cheng heard Li Lingfan speak like this, he also did not remain polite. After he put away the jade card and the jade strip, he took the initiative to take out a thin thread and handed it to Li Lingfan and spoke, "This is Leng Yu's magical weapon. After I received it, I did not have the time to return it to him. Brother Li, please help me out." Li Lingfan took the magical weapon that Ning Cheng handed to him, and spoke with a smile, "After junior apprentice brother Leng Yu lost his drifting space mist thread, he had already mentioned it to me a few times. Even if you did not take it out this time, I would have shamelessly asked you about it. I thank you on behalf of junior apprentice brother Leng Yu." Ning Cheng also smiled and spoke, "Brother Li has already said it, we are already friends, why would you need to thank me for such a small thing? I do not have many friends, to be able to become friends with Brother Ning, is this Li Lingfan's honor." After Li Lingfan gulped down a few mouthfuls of spiritual wine, he laughed and spoke, "How many people can have such a big hand like Brother Ning? In the future when it comes out, I would also be honored." Ning Cheng knew that Li Lingfan had already understood that the Grand Peace City's auction house's scheme was something that he had come up with, but he did not point it out, as he drank half a pot of wine with Li Lingfan and asked, "Brother Li." Li Lingfan placed the pot of wine on the table and spoke, "Ning Cheng, you can just call me by my name, or Lingfan. Brother Li calling me by that name would make you feel like an outsider. To be honest, back at the Heavenly Dao Public Square, I should have had a drink with you." "Good, Lingfan can also call me Xiao Cheng, this is my other name." Ning Cheng did not remain polite with Li Lingfan. "Yes, Xiao Cheng is quite easy to call. What did you want to ask me a moment ago?" Li Lingfan felt that Ning Cheng's wine was really good, as he continued to speak, while he drank a few mouthfuls of wine. Ning Cheng did not beat around the bush, and directly spoke, "You and Chai Chu Dai just met, how is your relationship?" Li Lingfan laughed, as he stood up and walked over to Ning Cheng's side, as he patted Ning Cheng's shoulder and spoke, "It looks like you are somewhat interested in her. That Chai Chu Dai is indeed good-looking, but her schemes are somewhat deep. Otherwise, I would have introduced her to you." When Ning Cheng heard this, he immediately felt relieved in his heart, as he also smiled and spoke, "You misunderstood my meaning, I know Chai Chu Dai, this woman is extremely sinister and vicious. The reason why I asked her, is to tell Brother Li not to have anything to do with this woman, she will definitely stab you in the back when you are not paying attention. I am 100% sure, that she approached you with a purpose. So that's how it is." Li Lingfan's eyes turned sharp, as he sneered and spoke, "Wanting to take advantage of me, Li Lingfan, she is still too tender. I said that this woman is a bit weird, fortunately you reminded me." Ning Cheng nodded, but did not continue. Li Lingfan was able to become a disciple of the Heavenly Dao Academy, as such he definitely had something extraordinary about him. This time a shape-shifting spiritual ginseng appeared near the North Light town, causing many people from the various academies to come here. "If you want to leave, then leave quickly, do not stay in this place." Li Lingfan finished, and took the initiative to remind Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng took out 10 pots of spiritual wine brewed from the spiritual enhancement True Nectar and handed it to Li Lingfan and spoke, "I will not say any words of thanks, I will take my leave now, we will definitely meet again in the future." Li Lingfan also did not remain polite, he had just put away Ning Cheng's spiritual wine, when his spiritual consciousness swept out into the hall. "It's your Tao companion." As Li Lingfan spoke, Ning Cheng had already gone downstairs. He hurriedly followed Ning Cheng into the hall. "Let's go." As soon as Ning Cheng arrived in the hall, he immediately stepped forward and grabbed Shi Qionghua's hand and spoke. As for the two corpses in front of Shi Qionghu, he acted as if he did not see them. "A cold snort arrived, killing people in my North Light town, do you think you can just casually walk away? Today, if I, Wei Ying, do not skin you, this adulterous couple, then my North Light gang will no longer exist." As this voice arrived, an even more powerful imposing aura descended. In his view, a cultivator who could only drink tea in the hall, was not even considered as an ant. This imposing aura wrapped around a man with a fierce look on his face, as he fell towards the hall of the spiritual tea house. However, not waiting for him to fall to the ground, Shi Qionghu raised her hand and slapped down towards the void. Bang! A sound emerged, as Shi Qionghu directly slapped the man into a pillar in the middle of the hall, causing him to slide to the ground. "These two people wanted to take me away, but were killed by that Chu Dai. The person who came here must have gotten the news." Shi Qionghu, at this moment, told Ning Cheng about what had happened. Ning Cheng swept a cold glance at Chai Chu Dai, he was sure that Chai Chu Dai was deliberately trying to stir up trouble. However, although Shi Qionghua's hands were soft, Ning Cheng's hands were not soft, as he raised his hand and sent out a fireball. The cultivator, who had been slapped to the ground by Shi Qionghu, had not yet climbed up, when Ning Cheng's fireball turned him into flying ash. Chapter 339. When Chai Chu Dai saw Ning Cheng's gaze, she couldn't help but feel some fear in her heart. Her cultivation was obviously at soul essence second level, but a profound core cultivator was able to make her feel fear, it was completely unreasonable. Unless this profound core cultivator was hiding his cultivation, in any case, she did not dare to continue to look at Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng had turned an expert from the North Light gang into flying ash with a fireball, not to mention Chai Chu Dai not daring to look at Ning Cheng, even the rest of the people in the spiritual tea house all lowered their heads, not daring to look at this incomparably fierce fellow. In this place, there were only some low-leveled cultivators with low cultivation, who would dare to offend the local snake, the North Light gang. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness swept outside the North Light town and once again found a few shadows, moreover there were some familiar figures, he knew that he had to leave. Li Lingfan also knew that Ning Cheng had to leave as soon as possible, so he just came down and spoke to Ning Cheng, "Leave the matters here to me, you can go ahead first." "Okay." Ning Cheng did not remain polite with Li Lingfan, as he pulled Shi Qionghu and quickly left the town, bringing out a flight-type magical weapon, and quickly disappeared. Li Lingfan was an important figure in the Heavenly Tao Academy, not to mention a North Light gang, even if there were 100 North Light gangs, they would not dare to touch a single hair on his head. The two people who wanted to take Shi Qionghu away were attracted by Chai Chu Dai, and were also killed by Chai Chu Dai. She had wanted to see how Shi Qionghu and Ning Cheng would deal with this matter, as well as whether Li Lingfan would offend the North Light gang for Ning Cheng. But she did not expect that Ning Cheng would be so decisive, and that Li Lingfan would not hesitate to help, causing her to not obtain any useful information. That Li Lingfan really knows how to repay kindness. Shi Qionghu spoke after listening to Ning Cheng's words. Ning Cheng also spoke with some emotion. "Actually, I did not help him much, when I first saved him, I did not care about who he was. In other words, no matter who it was, I would have saved him. I have seen many cases of people biting the hand that feeds them, Li Lingfan is indeed a worthy friend." Ning Cheng really did not think of it, he had met Li Lingfan by chance, and wanted to ask Li Lingfan for help, it was just a spur-of-the-moment idea. Or rather, Shi Qionghu had said that the relationship between the Heaven Alliance and the Heavenly Tao Academy was not ordinary, which had this idea. He did not expect that Li Lingfan would not only help him, but also help him a lot. In contrast, Yin Kongchan, Su Yingde, and the others, who kept on saying that he had saved their lives, were actually scheming against him. Do you know Chai Chudai? Although Shi Qianghua did not like to stir up trouble, but she knew that Chai Chudai had killed 2 people in a row, and even provoked the North Light Gang to target her and Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng nodded. Yes, I obtained a treasure. It was a Thunder City. It was this woman who took me there. If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't even know where this Thunder City was. However, this woman was cruel and merciless. She was not a good person. There is a 3-inch crescent moon pattern on her lower abdomen, and there are flashes of lightning. I don't know if it is related to the Thunder City that I obtained. Shi Qianghua's complexion changed. Have you done it with her? What have you done? Ning Cheng could not react for an instant. He had never thought that Shi Qianghua would think about those things for no reason at all. Shi Qianghua did not know how to explain it. At this time, Ning Cheng finally understood, as he grabbed Shi Qianghua's hand and spoke. Qianghua, I have only had skin contact with 2 women until now, one is you, and the other is Luofei. Don't misunderstand. You're the only one who's having sex with me. Luofei and I know each other through trials and tribulations, just like you. I will not abandon her. Ning Cheng's words were somewhat euphemistic, but he clearly stated that Luofei and Shi Qianghua's status was the same. If Shi Qianghua, because of the matters between them, had any thoughts towards Luofei, then he would feel very sad in his heart, even uncomfortable. Shi Qianghua immediately understood the meaning of Ning Cheng's words. Ning Cheng had misunderstood her. She had thought that Ning Cheng and Chai Chudai had skin contact, causing her complexion to change, not because of jealousy, but because of Ning Cheng's secret. Chai Chudai did not look like a good person. Once she knew about Ning Cheng's secret, how could she not have any thoughts towards him? That's not the reason. It's because when we were together, I knew that you have a Thunder City, a Fire Seed, and even the Origin Aura. If these things were leaked, then even the cultivators of the entire Tian continent would not let you off. Shi Qianghua's words had not yet finished, when Ning Cheng completely understood. Originally, Shi Qianghua had told him not to be with other women. It was because of this matter. Even if Shi Qianghua had not said it, he would not have done it. I know. Ning Cheng could feel Shi Qianghua's thoughts, as he directly pulled Shi Qianghua into his arms. Shi Qianghua was just about to speak to Ning Cheng, when her complexion suddenly changed. Before she instantly spoke up, Ning Cheng, we are surrounded by people, moreover even the space around us has been locked. After listening to Shi Qianghua's words, Ning Cheng could also feel the situation. He immediately put away his flight-type magical weapon, while simultaneously holding Shi Qianghua. He was about to stimulate the twin wings of the heavenly clouds. If not for Shi Qianghua's timely reminder, then perhaps he would have completely rushed into the other party's restriction. Immediately, he felt that the surrounding space had become terrifyingly viscous, making it impossible for him to escape. From this, it could be seen that even if he did not completely rush into the other party's restriction, he would still be greatly affected. More than a dozen extremely powerful fluctuations quickly rushed over from all directions, not to mention that Ning Cheng was only in the soul essence realm. Even if he was in the soul sculpting realm, he would not be able to escape at this moment. Although Shi Qianghua's cultivation was high, but with the twin wings of the heavenly clouds on Ning Cheng's body, there were also several powerful spiritual consciousnesses that had locked onto Shi Qianghua. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness simultaneously swept over several powerhouses. Not a single one of them had a cultivation below Crucible Transformation Realm. Shi Qianghua apparently also saw this situation, causing her to calm down, as she spoke in a soft voice. If we really can't escape, then let's just die together. Ning Cheng was not willing to be captured without putting up a fight. He did not hesitate to bring out the true Brahma Buddha fire wheel. Under the stimulation of the power of hope from the Imperial Jade Seal, the Buddha fire wheel was just like a meteor, as it instantly broke through the forbidden space shackles, before disappearing into the horizon. Shi Qianghua looked at the rapidly ascending Buddha fire wheel in shock. Even her spiritual consciousness was unable to observe the situation outside. This speed was simply too terrifying. Moreover, what kind of power could break through such a powerful forbidden space shackles? What kind of magical weapon is this? How could it be so terrifying? Shi Qianghua could not help but ask in shock. Ning Qing could feel that the Buddha fire will had finally broken through the forbidden space shackles, causing him to feel relieved in his heart. As long as the Buddha fire will could rush out, then even a crucible transformation cultivator would not be able to catch up to him. This is a Buddhist supreme treasure. Originally I thought that it was just a low-grade true artifact, however this magical weapon might not be as simple as a low-grade true artifact. Moreover, this magical weapon is powered by the power of hope. Qianghua, have you ever heard of the power of hope? The power of hope in Ning Cheng's imperial jade seal was getting lesser and lesser. He was worried that once the power of hope was used up, he would not be able to use it again. Power of hope. Shi Qianghua shook her head in a daze, but she felt that she had heard of it somewhere before. She then asked, so when you obtained the 9-colored mirage tree, did you also use the power of hope to dig it up? I heard that the 9-colored mirage tree cannot be dug up using true essence. That's right. Ning Qing did not conceal anything in front of Shi Qianghua. He was very unhappy about this ambush. This definitely was a ploy by someone. If not for him and Shi Qianghua being together, if they had gone a little further, then even the true Brahma Buddha fire will would not have been able to escape. This time we were plotted against. If not for me using the power of hope to stimulate the true Brahma Buddha fire wheel, then we would have definitely died. Ning Qing clenched his fists. His strength was truly not good. If he was in the crucible transformation realm, then he would not have needed to escape, he would have directly killed them. Shi Qianghua understood Ning Cheng's thoughts. She grabbed Ning Cheng's hand and asked, was it Li Lingfan? Ning Cheng was silent for a moment, before he shook his head and spoke, it was definitely not him, we only met Li Lingfan by chance. Moreover, we had not come out of the North Light town for a long time, but the arrangement that intercepted us was not simple at all. Almost the entire vicinity of the North Light town was covered with a forbidden space restriction. It was obvious that they knew in advance that we had entered the North Light town. Moreover, these forbidden space restrictions were set up to prevent us from using the twin wings of the heavenly clouds, or using the transfer talisman to suddenly escape. Therefore, these people who plotted against us had already recognized me before we even entered the North Light town. They could have directly trapped us, but this group of people were afraid of my twin wings of the heavenly clouds, so just in case, they arranged a forbidden space restriction in advance. Unfortunately, I still have the true Brahma Buddha fire wheel. I have already recognized a few of them, and will definitely pay them a visit one by one in the future. Speaking till the end, Ning Cheng's killing intent directly revealed itself. It would be dangerous for us to go to the transfer array controlled by the Heaven Alliance. Maybe by the time we arrive, someone would already be blocking us. Shi Qianghua asked in doubt, didn't you say that Li Lingfan did not plot against us? We are going to the Sifting Orchid Star, shouldn't he be the only one who knows about it? Ning Qing explained, Li Lingfan is already in the North Light town. Even if he did not want to say it, he would not be able to stop so many crucible transformation cultivators from interrogating him. If we can reach the transfer array in the shortest possible time, then we should still be able to make it, but I'm afraid that by the time we arrive, this group of bastards would already know about it. If not for the power of hope from the true Brahma Buddha fire will being insufficient, Ning Cheng would have directly controlled it. In any case, the Buddha fire will was already in the Sifting Orchid Star. Shi Qianghua was silent for a moment before speaking. With our current speed, when we arrive at the transfer array, they should not have enough time to react. Let's see how long that Li Lingfan can hold on before speaking. As long as he can hold on for an hour, then it should not be a problem. Ning Cheng also knew that what Shi Qianghua said was right, as he stimulated the true Brahma Buddha fire will to move towards the direction of the transfer array. His current cultivation was many times stronger than before, as such his control over the true Brahma Buddha fire will was also a lot more flexible. There should not be many people who knew that he possessed the twin wings of the heavenly clouds. Moreover, the Severing Emotions Tao sect, where Su Yingde was from, had already sealed itself off, so it was most likely that it was Yin Kongchan who leaked it. It was also possible that he was discovered by an expert during the tournament at the Heavenly Dao Public Square. What a terrifying flight-type magical weapon, it can even break through the forbidden space restriction. A crucible transformation cultivator stared at the true Brahma Buddha fire wheel in the distance, as he spoke out in shock. This person talked to Li Lingfan in the North Light Town. We should immediately go and inquire about it from Li Lingfan. I do not believe that he can escape from the Tian continent. The person who spoke had a thick, killing intent in his tone. If Ning Cheng was here, he would immediately recognize this person as the sickly man from the Red Star Sword faction, Tang Gongxi. Chapter 340. An hour later, in the northernmost part of the Tian continent, outside a mountain range lacking in spiritual qi, Ning Cheng and Shi Qionghua appeared. Not only was the place lacking in spiritual qi, but it was also surrounded by gusts of whirlwinds that came out of nowhere. For people with poor cultivation, if they were not careful, they would be swept away by these whirlwinds. The location of this transmission array is really out of the way. Ning Cheng sighed. Shi Qionghua replied, I heard that this place was originally a small academy in the Tian continent, but after that foreign cultivator settled here, he felt that arranging a transmission array here was quite good, and arranged a transmission array to head to the Sifting Orchid Star. Let's go and have a look. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness swept towards the distant mountain range. He knew that the transmission array to the Sifting Orchid Star was located in the deepest part of this mountain range. Why don't I enter the miniature world first, and you go alone? Shi Qionghua quickly spoke up. Ning Cheng nodded, now we can only try our luck. With so many crucible transformation cultivators interrogating us, Li Lingfan would definitely not be able to hold on for long. I can only hope that Li Lingfan has not yet revealed our whereabouts. At the same time, in the North Light Town, Li Lingfan was bowing towards the several crucible transformation cultivators. Nephew Lingfan, I will not beat around the bush. There was a cultivator who met you here a moment ago. Do you know where he went? Tang Guangxi thought that his words had given Li Lingfan a lot of face. At least he spoke in a very vague manner. He did not directly ask Li Lingfan where Ning Cheng went. Li Lingfan frowned and thought for a while before asking, who is it that Senior Tang is talking about? I have already met many of my friends here. There were more than a dozen of them. Tang Guangxi impatiently interrupted Li Lingfan's words and spoke, I will not beat around the bush with you. Why don't you tell me directly where Ning Cheng went? Ning Cheng. Li Lingfan suddenly smiled, Senior Tang, how would I know where Ning Cheng went? Besides, I am a disciple of the Heavenly Dao Academy. Does Senior Tang think that the Red Star Sword faction can eat my Heavenly Dao Academy? So why are you threatening me? As Li Lingfan finished, he raised his hand and took out a flying sword, ready to shoot it out. Tang Guangxi's expression immediately became unsightly. He didn't know if he should stop them or not. If he did, then he would be afraid of the Heavenly Dao School. If they did not stop it, then the strength of the Heavenly Dao Academy would obviously be far stronger than the Red Star Sword faction. For this operation, they did not have an appointment with the Heavenly Dao Academy. Once the Heavenly Dao Academy came, Ning Cheng's belongings would be reduced by a lot. Moreover, the Heavenly Dao Academy was extremely two-faced. The last time they had intercepted the Severing Emotions Dao sect, all the other academies had suffered some damage, except for the Heavenly Dao Academy, which did not even suffer any minor injuries. It was obvious that the Heavenly Dao Academy did not go all out. As such, when they intercepted Ning Cheng, they simply did not intend to call the Heavenly Dao Academy. The reason why Tang Gongxi spoke to Li Lingfan in such an impolite tone was because Li Lingfan had always been polite to the elders, and his reputation had always been good. It was not an exaggeration to say that he was an obedient disciple. He wanted to use his cultivation to suppress Li Lingfan and make Li Lingfan confess honestly. He didn't expect to hit a snag. When a pale-faced man from the Yin Yang Dao saw this, he hurriedly went forward to stop him and said, Nephew Lingfan, let's talk things through. Brother Tang did not mean that, he just wanted to inquire about Ning Cheng's whereabouts. So that's how it is, I got it. Li Lingfan gave a chuckle and put away the messenger flying sword. Seeing Li Lingfan reveal such an expression, the several crucible transformation cultivators felt as if a heavy burden had been lifted off their shoulders. Tang Gongxi wanted to pretend to be a senior, but ended up hitting a snag. That's right, do you know where Ningqing went? The crucible transformation cultivator from the Yin Yang Dao sect eagerly asked. Li Lingfan gave a smile and spoke in a calm manner, I don't know. The several crucible transformation cultivators looked at each other. They did not want to force Li Lingfan. After all, forcing Li Lingfan to do so would mean becoming enemies with the Heavenly Dao Academy. No one would be willing to take the initiative to do such a stupid thing. After the several crucible transformation cultivators finished their discussion, not long after, Li Lingfan received a messenger flying sword. Li Lingfan knew that the crucible transformation elder from the Heavenly Dao Academy had arrived. At this time, he could only hope that Ning Cheng had not gone to the transmission array. Once the crucible transformation elder from the Heavenly Dao Academy arrived, he would definitely reveal Ning Cheng's whereabouts. Passing through the rolling mountains, Ning Cheng saw a gray building surrounded by restrictions. Ning Cheng had just walked into this gray building when he was stopped by a soul sculpting cultivator. I want to go to the Sifting Orchid Star, this is my identity card. Ning Cheng took out a black jade card and handed it over without any expression. He was ready. Once the people here recognized him, he would immediately call out Shi Qionghua, and the two of them would kill their way out. Ning Cheng had just taken out the black jade card, when a few powerful spiritual consciousnesses swept over him. These were definitely crucible transformation cultivators. Ning Cheng was shocked in his heart, but he still managed to maintain his calm. After these powerful spiritual consciousnesses fell on Ning Cheng's body, they did not immediately leave. Rather, one of the spiritual consciousnesses fell on Ning Cheng's miniature world ring. Ning Cheng felt slightly nervous in his heart. He was sure that until now, Li Lingfan had not yet revealed the news that he wanted to go to the Sifting Orchid Star. However, this kind of thing could happen at any time. Once the people here received the news, it would be very difficult for him to escape. At that time, they would not be able to use their spiritual consciousnesses to investigate him. What's more, Ning Cheng was even more worried about his miniature world. He always had two rings in his hand. One was public, and the other was engraved with a concealment restriction. It was his small world. Ordinary people would not be able to see his concealment ring, but now that a spiritual consciousness fell on his miniature world, it showed that this person was an array Dao expert. This guy could tell that his concealment ring was a little different. Ning Cheng believed that even if the opposite party was an expert in the Dao of arrays, it would be impossible for them to use their spiritual consciousness to crack the concealment restriction of his miniature world. His array Dao cultivation had already far surpassed his actual cultivation. That soul sculpting realm cultivator took Ning Cheng's jade card and went inside. Not long after, he came out and spoke to Ning Cheng. The identity card has been verified to be correct. However, even if you have the identity card, if you want to go to the Sifting Orchid Star by yourself, it would still cost you 3 million spirit stones and 2 best quality spirit stones. Ning Cheng guessed that Li Lingfan had not inquired about these things, as such he did not have any objection to the 3 million spirit stones here. Although it was a pity to take away 2 top-quality spirit stones, it was still within his acceptable range. He originally had 5 top-quality spirit stones on him, as such taking away 2 would not have much of an impact on him. Seeing Ning Cheng take out 3 million high-grade spirit stones without any hesitation, along with 2 top-quality spirit stones, this soul-sculpting cultivator looked at Ning Cheng a few more times. Even if Ning Cheng came from the Heavenly Dao Academy, it was rare for a soul essence cultivator to be so generous. Fortunately, this cultivator did not ask anything, and directly brought Ning Cheng to the transmission plaza. Only then did the powerful spiritual consciousness that had been circling around Ning Cheng's body retract, causing Ning Cheng to secretly sigh in relief. After the time it takes for half an incense stick to burn, a blinding white light flashed through the gray buildings. Ning Cheng, who was standing in the middle of the transmission array, was immediately wrapped up by this white light, before he instantly disappeared without a trace. Ning Cheng had only left for a few minutes, when a red flying sword rushed into the gray buildings, before it fell into the hands of a long-haired man. A great enemy of the Heaven Alliance is heading to the Sifting Orchid Star, be sure to stop him. The messenger flying sword only had a few words on it, but this long-haired man knew that this flying sword was a few minutes late. The great enemy mentioned on the flying sword was definitely the soul essence cultivator who had concealed his ring a moment ago. Unfortunately, he had already been sent away. The moment Ning Cheng was sent away by the transmission array, he immediately felt bursts of tearing pain. At this moment, not to mention releasing his spiritual consciousness, even keeping himself awake was not easy. Ning Cheng forcibly kept himself awake. He knew that once he fainted, even if he was sent to the Sifting Orchid Star, he did not know what the consequences would be. Time and space at this moment in Ning Cheng's consciousness had turned into nothingness. He was simply not aware of the passage of time, nor was he aware of the transformation of space. He forcibly kept his mind in check, while in his heart he was secretly admiring the person who built this transmission array. It was simply too amazing. Even a Tier 9 array formation Grand Master would not be able to build such a terrifying transmission array. Bang! Not knowing for how long, Ning Cheng felt himself falling onto a pile of rocks, causing the pain all over his body to sober up. It was not until now that he understood. Even if he forcibly kept himself awake, he still ended up losing consciousness. Fortunately, this fall was very solid, as such he could not help but wake up. Ning Cheng had just opened his eyes, when a fishy wind rushed over. Ning Cheng did not have enough time to look at it, and immediately punched out. Boom! Ning Cheng felt as if his fist had punched a hard steel plate. The strength of the recoil even caused his fist to feel a bit of pain. Ning Cheng quickly took out the black spear, while simultaneously informing Shi Qianghua that he had arrived. Shi Qianghua had just come out of the miniature world, when that fishy wind once again rushed over. Shi Qianghua raised her hand, and a sword light flew out, causing that fishy wind to give out a hissing sound, as it spilled a pool of blood, before it instantly escaped. From the beginning to the end, Ning Cheng was not able to clearly see what kind of monstrous beast it was. This is a fishy wind beast, it comes and goes without a trace. This fishy wind beast's rank is still very low, as such it is not something to worry about. Shi Qianghua explained. Ning Cheng's ears were filled with all kinds of terrible whistling sounds, as he looked at the endless wilderness and spoke. Qianghua, fortunately you accompanied me here. A low-level fishy wind beast almost killed me. If I encountered a high-level monstrous beast, then what would I do? Shi Qianghua knew that Ning Cheng deliberately said those words, as she smiled and spoke. In fact, the monstrous beasts here all have their own characteristics. As long as you master their characteristics, you can easily kill them. After a pause, Shi Qianghua continued, in the Sifting Orchid Star, although it is not suitable for cultivation, but it is most suitable for forging one's body. For your embracing young god tactic to quench your corporeal body in this place, it would be the best. Ning Cheng spoke with a bitter face. The embracing young god tactic has now been modified by me to the point that it can only be called the non-phase spirit tactic, although it is good for quenching the corporeal body, but I do not understand anything about forging the body, nor have I come into contact with any kind of body forging cultivation method. Shi Qianghua gave a mysterious smile and spoke, I'll take you to a place. When Ning Cheng saw the smile on Shi Qianghua's face, he almost froze. It was the first time that he had seen such a playful smile on Shi Qianghua's face. At this moment, he felt that Shi Qianghua was the most beautiful scenery that the heavens had given him. Chapter 341. After Ning Cheng followed Shi Qianghua for a while, he immediately felt that something was not right, as he asked in doubt, Qianghua, this place is filled with raging winds, even the sunlight is not visible, how are you able to distinguish the direction? Before I was 10 years old, I lived here. Shi Qianghua spoke with a somewhat depressed tone, as if she was thinking about something from the past. What? Ning Cheng stopped in shock. He did not think that Shi Qianghua was born in the Sifting Orchid Star. If Shi Qianghua was born in the Sifting Orchid Star, didn't that mean that Shi Qianghua's parents were also here? Seeing Ning Cheng stop, Shi Qianghua also stopped. She stood side by side with Ning Cheng, as she looked into the distance and spoke, "As far as I can remember, Uncle Yu and I have been living in this place. Later, Uncle Yu went out once and never came back, so I lived here alone." Ning Cheng looked at Shi Qianghua in disbelief. Although he had just arrived at the Sifting Orchid Star, and had not encountered any dangerous places. However, there were strong winds everywhere, and there were deep ravines plowed by unknown things on the ground. It was obvious that this was not a place for people to live in. Shi Qianghua was only 10 years old, how could she live independently here? Furthermore, he had spent his entire childhood cultivating in such a terrifying place. It was truly unimaginable. As if she knew what Ning Cheng was thinking, Shi Qianghua helped Ning Cheng brush off some of the dust on his face and spoke, "The place I live in is quite safe, moreover when Uncle Yu left, I was already in the soul sculpting realm." Ning Cheng at this time was completely speechless, he was well aware of the difficulty of cultivation. His cultivation speed could be said to be incomparably fast, but Dao was only at the soul essence 3rd level. Shi Qianghua had already reached the soul sculpting realm at the age of 10, just what kind of speed was this? Even talented cultivators like Yin Kongchan and Su Yingde would need to reach their late 20s or even 30s before they could reach soul sculpting. And this was the effect of the sex accumulation of resources. Otherwise, his progress would be even slower. Ning Cheng knew that he had only spent a few years cultivating to the soul essence realm, but he still felt puzzled about Shi Qianghua's cultivation speed. Although he was able to cultivate to the soul essence realm, but there were conditions and restrictions. If he had not obtained the mysterious yellow bead, not to mention the soul essence realm, it was estimated that he would not have even reached the middle stages of the qi gathering realm. Moreover, Ning Cheng was sure that if Shi Qianghua had such a thing, she would have definitely told him about it. Just like how he had told Shi Qianghua about the origin of the mysterious yellow origin. "I'm a reincarnated body. My essence soul is naturally powerful." Coupled with the inheritance of the cultivation method, as well as Uncle Yu looking for heavenly materials and earthly treasures for me everywhere, it would not be strange for me to cultivate to the soul sculpting realm at the age of 10. Moreover, Uncle Yu said that the conditions here are too poor, and my cultivation speed is too slow. Listening to Shi Qianghua's words, Ning Cheng did not know what to say. Was this speed still slow? Shi Qianghua continued, "I do not know if it was fast or slow, but since Uncle Yu did not come back, I have been cultivating here alone. One time when I went out to look for spiritual grasses, I met Su Anjin. Because my soul and life essence were incomparably powerful, Su Anjin directly took me away from the sifting orchid star, and even suppressed a trace of my life essence. If it weren't for you, I might not be here anymore. This damned old woman, I should have burned down her doghouse." Ning Cheng said with hatred in his voice. Then he remembered that Shi Qianghua was already 33 years old. If she had advanced to the soul sculpting realm at the age of 10, then the progress of Shi Qianghua's cultivation in the last 22 years, compared to the first 10 years, was simply no progress at all. Shi Qianghua showed a faint smile, as she tightly grasped Ning Cheng's hand and spoke, "Actually, I do not hate her. If not for her, I would not have met you. Not having you is my biggest regret. The reason why I came back to the sifting orchid star with you, was to find out if Uncle Yu was still there." Shi Qianghua did not speak any words of love, as such her words came from the bottom of her heart. If there was anything, then she would say it out loud. "Me too." Ning Cheng also held Shi Qianghua's hand tightly. "Can you take me to see the place where you live, N?" Shi Qianghua had just responded, when she suddenly held Ning Cheng and quickly leapt away. Ning Cheng had absolute trust in Shi Qianghua. Even if Shi Qianghua suddenly held him and leapt away, he did not resist, he did not even think much about it. Boom! A terrifying explosion erupted behind Ning Cheng, as Ning Cheng swept out with his spiritual consciousness, only to find that the place where he and Shi Qianghua were standing a moment ago had erupted with a flame that was several tens of feet high. Moreover, this flame was still continuing to erupt, while also continuing to spread. Ning Cheng sucked in a mouthful of cold air. This kind of erupting volcano, once swept into it, even if he had the cultivation of soul essence realm, he would still end up without even his bones remaining. These are the scattered volcanoes of the sifting orchid star. This kind of volcano can erupt at any time. Once you feel that the surrounding space is somewhat unstable, or the temperature changes, then you must pay attention to this kind of volcanic eruption. Shi Qianghua explained to Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng nodded. If not for Shi Qianghua by his side, then even if he was more careful, in this place, sooner or later he would have fallen into a trap. Then let's go now. As Ning Cheng spoke, he completely spread out his spiritual consciousness. In this place, not only did they have to pay attention to their surroundings, but it was also a test for their spiritual consciousness. Shi Qianghua did not immediately leave, but instead spoke. This kind of volcano comes quickly, but also goes quickly. Moreover, after this kind of volcanic eruption, it would bring out a kind of artifact crafting material. This kind of artifact crafting material is called the Scarlet Brilliant Crystal, which is a rank 7 artifact crafting material. Ning Cheng did not have the time to sigh. Danger was always accompanied by opportunity, when he felt two spatial fluctuations. Someone is coming. They also know that there is a volcanic eruption in this place, as such they are looking for the Scarlet Brilliant Crystal. Shi Qianghua's voice had just fallen, when two figures landed not far from them. Ning Cheng could feel a violent aura coming from these two people. It felt like a volcanic eruption, but also like a hurricane sweeping through. He did not ask Shi Qianghua, but in his heart he understood what was going on. These two people definitely cultivated in the sifting orchid star for a long time, dealing with volcanic eruptions, hurricanes, and spatial turbulences, which allowed them to develop this kind of violent aura. Of the two people who arrived, one was at the intermediate stages of the soul sculpting realm, while the other was at the late stages of the crucible transformation realm. The late stages of the crucible transformation realm was a middle-aged man with dark red hair, just like a newly lit bonfire. The cultivator in the soul sculpting realm looked relatively weak, and wore a cultivator's hat on his head. Shi Qianghua's cultivation was at the crucible transformation 3rd level, while Ning Cheng's cultivation was only at the soul essence 3rd level. Compared to these two people, Shi Qianghua and Ning Cheng were obviously at a disadvantage. Hey, did they just come? The middle-aged late-stage crucible transformation realm cultivator glanced at Ning Cheng and Shi Qianghua in surprise. Shi Qianghua and Ning Cheng did not have the violent aura of the sifting orchid star. It was obvious that they had just arrived here. After he spoke those words to himself, he looked at the soul sculpting realm cultivator beside him and asked, Yenda, didn't you say that the sifting orchid star does not allow crucible transformation cultivators to come here? How come there is a crucible transformation cultivator here? The middle-aged man in the soul sculpting realm gave a smile. Elder brother Lu, this shows that they have something similar to a miniature world. Moreover, Yenda did not conceal his words, and even used his eyes to look at Shi Qianghua in an unscrupulous manner. As for Ning Cheng, he completely ignored him. An early-stage soul essence cultivator, how could he even put him in his eyes? Ha ha ha. This late-stage crucible transformation cultivator called Elder Brother Lu gave a hearty laugh, before he spoke up with some regret. What a pity. Yenda seemed to be able to read the mind of this late-stage crucible transformation cultivator, as he immediately narrowed his eyes and spoke, Elder Brother Lu, it is not a pity, where can you not get a pure Yin woman? On this sifting orchid star, to find such a stunning woman as a furnace, it is really hard to come by. Moreover her cultivation is also quite high. Ning Cheng's eyes flashed with murderous intent, but he was worried that Shi Qianghua would not be able to deal with this late-stage crucible transformation cultivator. Hey, this little ant dares to reveal his murderous intent? Could it be that I, Qi Lu, have not returned to the Tian continent for hundreds of years, causing the temper of the ants in the Tian continent to become bigger? The late-stage crucible transformation cultivator on seeing the murderous intent in Ning Cheng's eyes couldn't help but mutter to himself in a puzzled manner. Elder Brother Lu, there is no need to lower yourself to the level of an ant, I will kill him first. This soul-sculpting cultivator finished speaking, as he immediately rushed towards Ning Cheng. Shi Qianghua was just about to start, when Ningqing spoke up with a sound transmission. Qianghua, you pay attention to that red-haired ghost, he will not let you start. Wait for me to kill this fellow, then we can join forces to kill that red-haired ghost. Shi Qianghua had always listened to Ning Cheng's words, however, she did not know that Ning Cheng did not understand her methods at all. If Ning Cheng knew that her life essence had recovered to such a state, then he would not need to worry about it at all. That late-stage crucible transformation cultivator, on seeing that Shi Qianghua did not help Ning Cheng, felt somewhat surprised. If Shi Qianghua did not move, then he obviously would not make a move. In his view, Yenda was an intermediate-stage soul-sculpting cultivator. If he wanted to kill Ning Cheng, a soul essence third-level cultivator, then it would be as simple as pinching an ant to death. At the same time that Yenda rushed towards Ning Cheng, he immediately blasted out with his magical weapon. A pair of black and white 100-bladed wheels. After the two wheels blasted out, it immediately stimulated a dense black and white wool shadow. Each shadow had thousands of wool blades attached to it. The thousands of wool blades cut through the surrounding space with a hissing sound, as if they were countless poisonous snakes. These thousands of rotating blades had completely sealed off Ning City. In his opinion, not to mention that Ning Cheng was only at the soul essence third level, even if Ning Cheng was at the late stages of the soul sculpting realm, under these thousands of black and white wool shadows, he would still be in imminent danger. Although Shi Qianghua was nervously watching Ning Cheng, but she did not make a move. Although she had never seen Ning Cheng's combat prowess, she still had some understanding of it. When she had rescued Ning Cheng from the Severing Emotions Dao sect, Ning Cheng had not only killed one or two disciples of the Severing Emotions Dao sect. Moreover, among the people that Ning Cheng had killed, there were also cultivators in the soul sculpting realm. Now that there was only Yenda attacking Ning Cheng, Shi Qianghua believed that Ning Cheng would be able to deal with it. If he did not have the everlasting Blue Thunder City, then even if Ning Cheng could deal with Yenda, he would only end up in a stalemate. However, with the everlasting Blue Thunder City, even if Yenda was at the intermediate stages of the soul sculpting realm, Ning Cheng was not afraid of him. Yenda's cultivation was only at the intermediate stages of the soul sculpting realm, yet he wanted to use his imposing aura and spiritual consciousness to lock down Ning Cheng. It truly was just wishful thinking. Ning Cheng's figure flashed a few times, before he completely broke free from Yenda's spiritual consciousness shackles. However, Ning Cheng did not avoid these thousands of black and white wool blades, rather he directly brought out the everlasting Blue Thunder City. The everlasting Blue Thunder City had already been exposed in the Severing Emotions Dao sect, so it would not matter much if it was exposed in the Sifting Orchid Star. Moreover, Ning Cheng's idea in his heart was that as long as Shi Qianghua could pin down that red-haired man, he would definitely kill this person. Chapter 342. Pai Li Pa La, a series of explosions rang out. Thousands of black and white wool blades that could tear through the air were actually blocked by the Phantom Thunder City. But this Thunder City's virtual shadow only dimmed, but under Ning Cheng's stimulation, it quickly became clear once again. What kind of magic treasure is this? Qi Lu stared at the Thunder City's virtual shadow in shock as he muttered to himself. A soul essence cultivator was unexpectedly able to use a magical weapon to block the full-powered attack of a soul sculpting realm cultivator. How could this magical weapon be simple? And this was just a phantom. Thinking of this, Qi Li's gaze immediately became fiery as he looked at the flashing lightning in the Thunder City's shadow. He had to get his hands on this magic treasure. As such, when he saw the everlasting Blue Thunder City, he immediately understood that it was definitely a supreme magical weapon. This magic treasure was already so powerful even though it was only a shadow. Once he could bring out this Thunder City, he would definitely be able to control countless lightning arcs to bombard his enemies. At that time, who would be a match for him? Qi Lu. One had to say that Qi Li's vision was much higher than Ning Cheng's. Ning Cheng only knew that this Thunder City was a good thing, but he was still limited to using the everlasting Blue Thunder City for defense. As for using the everlasting Blue Thunder City to blast out the lightning arcs, he did not have any idea about it. Qi Li's heart was burning with passion for Ning Cheng's Thunder City, so why would he care about the battle between Yan De and Ning Cheng? His figure flashed, as he raised his hand towards Ning Cheng to grab him. In addition to paying attention to Ning Cheng, Shi Qianghua was also staring at Qi Li's movements. Now that Qi Lu dared to take the initiative to deal with Ning Cheng, how could she agree to it? With a raise of his hand, a cyan sword radiance shot out, instantly transforming into a semicircular cyan sword arc. Qi Lu simply did not put Shi Qianghua in his eyes. The reason why he dared to be so conceited was because he had experienced hundreds of years of life and death experiences in the Sifting Orchid Star. Moreover, he had also obtained many inheritances and benefits from the Sifting Orchid Star. Besides, his cultivation was also much stronger compared to Shi Qianghua, so how could he put Shi Qianghua in his eyes? Qi Li's hand claw instantly turned into a huge fist shadow. This fist shadow did not show even half a shred of intention to evade, as it blasted onto Shi Qianghua's cyan-colored sword arc, Peng. The sword radiance scattered in all directions, and the green sword arc disappeared. Qi Lu was forced to retreat dozens of meters away. He looked at the back of his hand in shock. Unexpectedly there were several bloodstains on it. He looked at Shi Qianghua, who was also sent flying upside down, and no longer regarded Shi Qianghua as an ordinary crucible transformation third-level cultivator. The peerlessly beautiful woman in white in front of him was in no way weaker than him. Qi Lu was well aware of his own bottom line. His strength was condensed under the violent environment of the Sifting Orchid Star, coupled with the addition of various inheritances, although he did not dare to say that he was invincible within the same realm, but he believed that there were not many crucible transformation cultivators who were stronger than him. Right now, this white-robed woman's cultivation level was lower than his, but her attacks were not any weaker than his. This meant that her legacy was much stronger than his cultivation technique. Coupled with Lei Cheng's shadow, how could Qi Lu not know that he had encountered an extremely good thing? A supreme magic treasure and supreme cultivation method seemed to be waiting for him. Thinking of this, Qi Lu calmed down and raised his hand to summon a large black flag. Ning Cheng, on seeing that Shi Qianghua did not seem to be any weaker than this red-haired man, immediately felt relieved in his heart. As long as he could find a way to kill this Yan De, he would then be able to help Shi Qianghua. Yan De was also shocked in his heart. He had not yet sobered up from the shock of Ning Cheng blocking his black and white wool blades, when Qi Lu suddenly attacked Ning Cheng. He knew that Qi Lu was coveting Ning Cheng's Thunder City's shadow, as he knew that this Thunder City's shadow was definitely a good thing. At this moment, not to mention Qi Lu, even he was tempted by it. However, he knew that his cultivation was not as good as Qi Li's, so even if he was tempted by it, he could not show it on the surface. But now that Qi Lu was unexpectedly blocked by that female cultivator, his heart suddenly turned lively. As long as he killed this soul essence kid, and snatched his things, then he would be able to leave. It would not be easy to find him in the Sifting Orchid Star. Yan De's mind moved, and an incomparably violent murderous aura erupted out. Under the swinging of his will blades, this time it did not bring out thousands of will blades, but rather a will blade storm mixed with a murderous aura. The berserk will blade storm bombarded onto Ning Cheng's everlasting blue Thunder City, causing Ning Cheng to feel an extreme discomfort, as if his internal organs were being torn apart by this terrifying murderous storm. Not only that, even his mind was filled with all kinds of violent murderous sounds. The everlasting blue Thunder City's shadow, in just a twinkling of an eye, cracked open and gradually dissipated. Although Ning Cheng was able to block the siege of many soul essence cultivators and soul sculpting cultivators in the Severing Emotions Dao sect, it did not mean that he would be able to beat an intermediate stage soul sculpting cultivator. It was not a simple matter of 1+1. Initially, when he was able to block so many soul essence cultivators in the Severing Emotions Dao sect, he was, after all, relying on the everlasting blue Thunder City. Moreover, Yan De cultivated the Tao of slaughter in the Sifting Orchid Star, so compared to ordinary intermediate stage soul sculpting cultivators, he was much stronger. My husband, you have to be careful of this person's sneak attacks. He cultivates the Tao of slaughter. Once his murderous aura invades your mind, then you will die without a chance of survival. Shi Qionghua's voice reached Ning Cheng's ears. Ning Cheng was shocked in his heart, but he instantly sobered up. His cultivation, when compared to Yan De, was more than a grade lower. However, his magical weapon was much more powerful than Yan De's. If his cultivation was not good enough, then he would have to use his magical weapon to crush this bastard to death. Feeling Ning Cheng being suppressed by his murderous aura, Yan De sneered in his heart, a trivial soul essence cultivator. He opened his mouth, and issued a burst of ear-piercing murderous sound. A circle of murderous aura, invisible to the naked eye, burst out from his body. For the people with weaker cultivations, at this moment, they were completely shocked. After Ning Cheng received Shi Qionghua's reminder, he was already on high alert. At this time when Yan De sent out a circle of murderous sound, Ning Cheng was even more unwilling to wait for even a moment. Under the crazy stimulation of his spiritual consciousness and true essence, Ning Cheng once again brought out the everlasting Blue Thunder City's shadow. Yan De, on seeing the everlasting Blue Thunder City's shadow, once again sneered in his heart. He was sure that Ning Cheng would find it difficult to control this Blue Thunder City's shadow. As long as he bombarded it with his countless slaughtering will blades, Ning Cheng would absolutely not be able to bring out this Thunder City's shadow for the third time. His slaughtering sound light had been cultivated from the hurricanes and the spatial turbulences of the sifting orchid star, so how could a trivial soul essence cultivator who had just arrived at the sifting orchid star dare to fight against it? Yan De's slaughtering sound light suddenly rose by a notch, while the 100 blades also turned violent at the same time. Ka. Amid the sounds, Ning Cheng's everlasting Blue Thunder City's shadow once again broke apart. At this time, Ning Cheng's face was pale. In Yan De's view, Ning Cheng was bound to be tied up. Unfortunately, he did not understand Ning Cheng. If it was replaced by Yin Kong Chan, then she would have definitely known that Ning Cheng was preparing a backup plan. Ka. Another burst of shattering sounds arrived, as Ning Cheng's everlasting Blue Thunder City's shadow once again disappeared. Almost at the same moment when the everlasting Blue Thunder City's shadow disappeared, a huge mottled copper coin appeared in the air. This copper coin instantly grew in size. It was as if the vault of heaven had suddenly fallen down, giving people an incomparably oppressive feeling. Ning Cheng's face turned even paler. As his cultivation improved, it became more and more difficult to bring out the 5 elements treasure fall copper coin. However, at the same time, the effect of bringing out the 5 elements treasure fall copper coin was also getting bigger and bigger. Every time the 5 elements treasure fall copper coin refined a layer of restrictions, it would require several times more true essence and spiritual consciousness to bring out. This was also the reason why Ning Cheng rarely used the 5 elements treasure fall copper coin against his enemies. Yan De, at this moment, also felt this kind of oppression. The next moment he unexpectedly realized that his 100 blades magical weapon had lost contact with his mind. Is this the 5 elements treasure fall copper coin? The first one to speak out in shock was not Yan De, but rather Qi Lu. Qi Lu was suppressed by Shi Qionghua's blue-colored sword light. As such, even if he had a lot of methods, he could not display any of them at this moment. He did not think that Ning Cheng not only had the shadow of the Thunder City, but also the 5 elements treasure fall copper coin. The 5 elements treasure fall copper coin was an extremely precious magical weapon from the ancient times. Moreover, many crucible transformation cultivators did not even know about this magical weapon. Qi Li's eyes turned even more fiery, while Yan De's mind was completely shocked at this moment. When Ning Cheng had brought out the 5 elements treasure fall copper coin, he had already calculated Yan De's reaction. For a magical weapon to be swept away for no reason, no matter who it was, they would definitely be surprised for a very short period of time. He had been waiting for this moment, so how could he waste such an excellent time? Ning Cheng was very clear that he could only bring out the 5 elements treasure fall copper coin once, and then he would have to rest for a long time before he could bring it out a second time. This thing was different from the everlasting Blue Thunder City, as it could not bring out a shadow at all. Bringing out the cosmic true devil axe, countless angry axe lines were just like fallen leaves in the autumn wind, completely sealing off Yan De's surroundings. At this time, a black spear descended from the sky, as it streaked through the air. Yenda finally reacted. He no longer cared about his 100 blades, nor did he continue to erupt with his murderous imposing manner to crush Ning Cheng. At this moment, the most important thing for him was to escape from this calamity. As long as he could escape from this calamity, then Ning Cheng would be able to kill him. He could feel that this was Ning Cheng's hidden card. Although the dense angry axe lines around him were incomparably powerful, but Yenda still did not put them in his eyes. Just as Yenda was about to rush out of the encirclement of the axe lines, his whole body stirred up a sail-like ball. Ning Cheng's angry axe-killing line exploded on top of Yenda's sail, giving out a sound like that of leather being torn apart. At most, it was only able to suppress the sail to a small size, but was not able to tear apart Yenda's sail. Yenda, relying on the sail that he stirred up, quickly rushed out of the dense axe line killing lights of Ning Cheng. The formidable axe intent for Yenda was like a decoration, it was simply unable to affect even half a shred of his concentration. Just as Yenda was about to rush out of Ning Cheng's axe line killing lights, the spear's shadow that cut through the sky had already arrived in front of Yenda. Although it was silent, but it had a kind of sovereign overlooking the world's aura. This kind of aura made Yenda feel suffocated and desperate. At this moment, he found that no matter where he went, he would definitely be torn apart by this spear. This was not a spear, but rather a judgment of his fate. The powerful aura of this spear suppressed him to the point that he could not even make a choice. Such a powerful spear intent. Yenda's voice was filled with a trace of despair. He had never seen such a powerful spear intent. This was not an ordinary spear intent, this was a spear intent that could decide his fate. At this moment, he understood that the opposite party had taken away his 100 blades, and made him dodge the axe line killing lights with all his strength, all for the sake of this spear. Puff, blood splattered everywhere. Yenda's entire head turned into nothingness under this spear. Chapter 343. Ning Cheng's spear was simply too amazing, even if Qilu did not want to pay attention to it. Although Ning Cheng's magical weapon was really good, but Qilu did not think that Ning Cheng, a trivial soul essence 3rd level cultivator, would be able to kill a soul sculpting 4th level cultivator. Moreover, it was a single shot to the head, without any fancy moves. It was not that he had not seen people jumping levels to kill, he had even seen soul essence cultivators killing soul sculpting cultivators. However, most of them were at the late stages of the soul essence realm. Moreover, Qilu was very clear about Yenda's strength, he was definitely not an ordinary soul sculpting 4th level cultivator. In Qilu's view, there was no soul essence 3rd level cultivator who could kill Yenda, even Ning Cheng would not be able to do so. Now that Ning Cheng killed Yenda, the only explanation was that Ning Cheng's magical weapon was too powerful. Using these two magical weapons, one could kill a soul sculpting cultivator while still in the soul essence realm. Qilu's heart was burning with eagerness, he had to obtain these two magical weapons. Although he was the only one here, he was not worried at all. Even if Ning Cheng was even more powerful, it would not affect him even in the slightest. The difference in strength was not just 1 or 2 points, even if he used a magical weapon, it would not be able to make up for it. Thinking until here, the black flag in Qilu's hands rolled up a patch of dark clouds, as it rumbled towards Shi Qionghua. Ning Cheng did not immediately step forward to help Shi Qionghua, he was also aware that the difference between his cultivation and Qilu's was too great. If he directly went forward, then he would not be able to help much. As for him killing Yenda, it was indeed because the advantage of magical weapons was just too great. However, the one who finally succeeded was the spear that he had comprehended from the Thunder City. Qilu's attack once again intensified, Shi Qionghua could instantly feel it. The cyan-colored sword curtain also gave rise to a sword wind, which was similar to overlapping mountain peaks, as it tore apart the dark clouds with its roaring momentum. Qilu suddenly issued a long and loud roar. At the same time, the large patch of dark clouds rolled up by the black flag, transformed into a huge black dragon. This black dragon merely opened its mouth and completely swallowed up Shi Qionghua's cyan-colored sword curtain. Not waiting for Shi Qionghua to react, the black dragon once again opened its mouth, once again spitting out the cyan-colored sword curtain that it had swallowed up. However, these cyan sword beams transformed into thousands of black flag blades. Each of these flag blades contained a violent killing intent and a sharp edge. Not only did they lock down the surrounding space, but they also contained a powerful tearing aura. Qi Lu truly wanted to kill Shi Qionghua. Although Shi Qionghua was a beautiful woman, but to have such a cultivation furnace accompanying her in the sifting orchid star, it would certainly be a good thing. But in front of Ning Cheng's magical weapons, Shi Qionghua, even if Shi Qionghua was more beautiful, he would not care about it. Boom boom boom. Shi Qionghua once again blasted out a cyan-colored sword curtain and the tens of thousands of black flag blade lights, causing explosive sounds to erupt. Shi Qiu tu. Shi, Chang, to Shi Lu, not, to. Shi Qi Qiu, and the Lu, and the, to say to Cheng. That. Seeing that the cyan-colored sword curtain was about to hit Shi Qionghua, Ning Cheng, who was about to step forward, quickly brought out the everlasting Blue Thunder City. The shadow of the everlasting Blue Thunder City immediately blocked the remaining black flag blade lights. Catcha, a sound emerged. Just by blocking the shadow of these flag blade lights, the Blue Thunder City shadow instantly shattered. Ning Cheng and Shi Qionghua both flew out upside down, while simultaneously spitting out a mouthful of blood. However, Ning Cheng had also helped Shi Qionghua to block this calamity, preventing Shi Qionghua from sustaining serious injuries. How are you? Shi Qionghua anxiously rushed to support Ning Cheng. She knew that it was due to her own carelessness, otherwise Ning Cheng would not have sustained such injuries. Ning Cheng wiped the blood from the corners of his mouth and spoke, "I'm fine, my strength is still too far away from his. Qionghua, you just have to hold him back. Don't ask for any merit, as long as you don't get injured." Ning Cheng sent a sound transmission to Shi Qionghua. He could see that Shi Qionghua's strength was not much worse than Qi Li's. It was just that Shi Qionghua's methods were a bit weaker, and was not very decisive. "I know, I will not let him hurt you again." As Shi Qiionghua spoke, her imposing aura instantly soared, while the blue sword in her hands automatically gave out bursts of clear sounds. She really had not gone all out before, but the reason why she did not go all out was completely different from Qi Li's. She had placed a part of her mind on Ning Cheng. She was afraid that if she went all out, Ning Cheng would end up in danger, and she would not have the means to save him. Now that Ning Cheng had killed his opponent, and was even injured because of her negligence, why would she still hold back her strength? Seeing Shi Qionghua's imposing aura skyrocketing, Qi Lu knew that this white-robed woman had not come out with her full strength. It looks like he would not necessarily be able to kill this woman just by relying on the flag blade lights. As they fought once again, the hard sand and stones around Shi Qiionghua and Qi Lu instantly turned into fine powder, while the blue-colored sword curtain turned into several tens of feet-long cutting blade lights. However, Qi Li's black banner, which had transformed into a banner dragon, was always able to devour these terrifying cutting sword lights. On the surface, because Shi Qiionghua no longer held back, although the black flag dragon was able to swallow up the long sword lights, it could not spit them out in a timely manner like before. Even if it occasionally spat out some of the baleful aura from the flag dragon, it would not be able to change the overall situation. For a time, no one could kill the other. Ning Cheng did not directly participate in the battle. He certainly knew what the advantages were, and what the disadvantages were. Compared to Qi Lu, his cultivation was just too poor. However, he had his own advantages. He was now a Tier 7 array formation Grand Master. If he did not take advantage of this advantage, then he would have to be stupid. Ning Cheng, with his fastest speed, arranged a large array formation around the two of them. Entrapment array, killing array, chain entanglement array. As long as Ning Cheng could think of it, and could arrange it, he had already arranged it. He even arranged a concealment array formation. Qi Lu, on seeing Ning Cheng arrange an array formation, sneered in his heart. A trivial soul essence cultivator, dared to use an array formation to trap him? Even if he did not move, and let Ning Cheng arrange an array formation, it would not be able to stop him. Despite thinking like this, he still carefully observed Ning Cheng's array formation. When he saw that Ning Cheng had only arranged a level 3 entrapment array, he did not even have the interest to continue watching. For him, there was only one enemy, and that was Shi Qionghua. Do not look at how he and Shi Qionghua were in a stalemate, but he still had a trump card that he had not brought out. Once his flag dragon swallowed a certain amount of sword curtains, he would then let his opponent die without a burial ground. The more sword curtains the opponent blasted out, the more powerful the flag dragon would be. No one knew how terrifying his black flag magical weapon was. It was a magical weapon that could only be used after the enemy had struck. Ning Cheng certainly did not want to arrange a level 3 entrapment array to trap Qi Luo. He knew that even if the level 3 killing array exploded in front of Qi Luo, it would not be able to do anything to him. After arranging the level 3 entrapment array, he then arranged a concealment array formation. Outside of this concealment array formation was the real array formation that he wanted to arrange, the level 6 entrapment array and the level 6 killing array. It would take too long to arrange the level 7 killing array, as such it was not suitable for him to do so at this moment. However, he could arrange the level 6 killing array. The level 6 killing array, the level 6 entrapment array, and the level 6 strangulation array, with these 3 array formations, he did not believe that they would not be able to trap this red-haired ghost. Even if they could not trap him, he could still blow up the 3 level 6 entrapment array formations. Now that Qi Luo did not care about his level 3 array formations, it was for the best. Ning Cheng was clear that even if Shi Qionghhua's strength was not worse than Qi Li's, but when it came to the degree of cunning, Shi Qionghua was far inferior to Qi Luo. Therefore, when he was arranging the array formations, he was constantly observing the fight between the two of them. He soon realized that something was wrong. It stood to reason that Qi Luo wanted to kill the two of them, as such it was impossible for him to be in a defensive state. But now that Qi Luo was in a defensive state, no matter how many sword curtains Shi Qionghua blasted out, they would all be swallowed up by Qi Li's flag dragon. Only occasionally would it counterattack once or twice, but the strength of the counterattack was simply not enough to threaten Shi Qionghua. This was definitely not Qi Li's true cultivation. Thinking of this, Ning Cheng quickly sent a sound transmission to Shi Qionghua. Qionghua, there is something wrong with that red-haired ghost's flag dragon. You do not need to attack, just defend. Shi Qionghua also felt that something was wrong, but she could not see what was wrong with it. But when Ning Cheng reminded her, she immediately sobered up. Qi Li's performance was just too low-key. This fellow's real strength, she was afraid that he was even a little bit stronger than her, so why was he being beaten? She immediately listened to Ning Cheng's words, and immediately put away the cyan curtain sword lights that she had blasted out, and instead brought out a round shield. Although there was still a cyan-colored sword curtain, but it was not an attack, but rather a defensive wall. When Shi Qionghua switched from attack to defense, Qi Luo immediately became aware of it. He immediately felt surprised in his heart. Did the other party see through the threat of his magical weapon? He could also detonate the flag dragon at this moment, but Qi Luo was very clear in his heart that the sword curtain that the flag dragon had swallowed could at most seriously injure the other party, and could not kill the other party. Therefore, he had to swallow some of the true essence that he had blasted out of the sword curtain to kill the other party. This magical weapon of his had a very strange name, called parasitic flag dragon. When facing the enemy, one could use their own true essence to transform the magical weapon into a black flag dragon shadow. This black flag dragon could swallow any attack from the opponent, and then turn that attack into its own attack, before spitting it out towards the opponent. This was just one of its functions. The most important trump card was that this flag dragon shadow could self-destruct. Moreover, after self-destructing, it would not have much effect on the magical weapon itself. The only drawback was that the flag dragon shadow would have to swallow even more of the opponent's sharp attacks before it self-destructed. The more attacks it swallowed, the more terrifying the self-destruct would be. Because it could only swallow the opponent's true essence attacks, which was the prerequisite for self-destruction, it was also called parasitic flag dragon. Now that Shi Qionghua did not attack him, the flag dragon could not swallow the sword curtain, and could not form such a powerful self-destruction condition. Qi Luo felt anxious in his heart. but he was also not willing to self-destruct like this. He believed that the other party must have taken a break before attacking again. As long as he continued to fight back, the other party would definitely attack him again. Thinking of this, Qi Li's black flag dragon continuously spat out a variety of baleful Qi flag blades, which were even more ferocious than before. However, Shi Qianghua had already experienced it once, and was able to resist it. As Qi Li's black flag dragon spat out more and more baleful Qi flag blades, Qi Lu became more and more anxious in his heart. If this went on, the power of the flag dragon's self-destruction would also become smaller and smaller. Once the flag dragon spat out all the true essence and sword lights that it had swallowed, the flag dragon would no longer be able to self-destruct. Just as Qi Lu was feeling anxious, Ning Qing suddenly rushed into the battle circle of the two people, and chopped down at Qi Lu with his great axe. Qi Lu was overjoyed in his heart. He was worried that no one would attack the flag dragon, and Ning Qing had finally arrived. As long as he killed this soul essence cultivator, would he still be afraid that this white-robed female cultivator would not go all out? Chapter 344. When Ning Qing rushed in, he was already prepared, as he simultaneously brought out the everlasting Blue Thunder City and the cosmic True Devil Axe. But Qi Lu also made up his mind to kill Ning Qing first. At the same time, the black flag dragon shot out countless flag blades, an octagonal copper hammer also shot out. Ning Qing simply did not intend to fight against Qi Lu. After he brought out the everlasting Blue Thunder City, he immediately used the twin wings of the heavenly clouds to cast a teleportation while holding Shi Qianghua. Ning Qing did this not because he had the twin wings of the heavenly clouds, but because he had arranged this array formation. When Shi Qianghua heard that Ning Qing wanted to leave, she immediately understood Ning Qing's intentions. Even so, she still arranged a sword curtain behind the everlasting Blue Thunder City. Boom! Countless flag edges and octagonal copper hammers bombarded onto Ning Qing's cosmic True Devil Axe and Thunder City. The True Devil Axe did not have the ability to resist, and was blasted away. At the same time, the Thunder City also broke into pieces with a cracking sound. If not for Shi Qianghua's sword curtain, then even if Ning Qing had the everlasting Blue Thunder City's shadow to block it, he would have already lost most of his life. Ka! A sound emerged, as Shi Qianghua's sword curtain once again shattered. The instant the twin wings of the heavenly clouds flashed, the octagonal copper hammer's hammer shadow struck Ning Qing's back. Although Ning Qing instantly teleported away, he still ended up injured once again. Twin heavenly cloud wings. Qi Lu was able to clearly see the thing that Ning Qing had used to escape from his hands, as his eyes almost burst out a golden light. Just how many good things did this guy have? Without waiting for Qi Lu to give chase, the surrounding space began to tremble violently. At the same time, a violent explosion rang out. Qi Li's complexion turned livid with anger. A trivial third-grade trap array actually dared to self-destruct in front of him. This guy was so stupid, so how did he get so many good things? Almost at the same time as the explosion, Qi Lu took a step forward. Even if he had to pay a great price, he had to kill these two cultivators and take everything for himself. Bang! An invisible barrier blocked Qi Li's path. Qi Li's spiritual sense swept out and he was shocked to discover that he was already in a level 6 entrapment formation. Moreover, this level 6 trap array was hidden by a concealment array. Even for him, it would take him several breaths of time to get out of the grade 6 trap formation. However, before he could react, the surrounding space once again went berserk. Not good, this kid is going to self-destruct his array formation. The self-destruction of a level 3 trap array did not affect him at all, but the self-destruction of a level 6 trap array would definitely injure him. At this time, he finally understood Ning Qing's craftiness. He had completely used the rank 3 array formation to confuse him, while in fact, he had arranged a rank 6 array formation. It was too late for him to regret it. He knew that he couldn't be blamed for this. If someone said that such a young cultivator could arrange a rank 6 array formation, he would never believe it. Moreover, this level 6 formation was completed in such a short period of time? Qi Lu knew that it was impossible to rush out at this moment. He could only protect his body and minimize his injuries. Bang bang. The terrifying explosion rolled up a terrifying wave, and the berserk aura formed a huge depression in the center of the explosion. After a series of explosions, even if Qi Lu protected his whole body, he was still injured by the explosions. But this was not the end, as a series of continuous explosions rang out, causing Qi Lu to finally feel fear. He did not think that this soul essence cultivator would arrange more than one rank 6 self-detonation array formation. At this time, how could he still have the leisure to observe the killing arrays that Ningqing had arranged? He put all his energy into protecting himself. The second and third killing arrays self-detonated. The power of the killing arrays self-detonated was several times more powerful than the entrapment arrays. Ningqiang's rank 6 array formation self-detonated. Even the Severing Emotions Dao Sec's Grand Defensive Array, which was close to a rank 9 Grand Defensive Array, would tremble incessantly. Not to mention that Qi Lu was only a Crucible Transformation 7th level cultivator. Even if a Crucible Transformation 7th level cultivator was powerful, it could not be compared to the Severing Emotions Dao Sec's Mountain Protecting Grand Array. After the 3 consecutive array formations self-detonated, Qi Lu was seriously injured at this moment. However, Ningqing knew that this was the time to take Qi Li's life. Even if he was injured, the black spear in his hand did not hesitate to shoot out. Shi Qianghua and Ningqiang had been together for a long time. She knew that Ningqiang was not the same as her, a person who could not bear being bullied. When Ningqiang detonated the 3 rank 6 array formations, she knew that Ningqiang wanted to sneak attack Qi Lu at the same time. There was no need for Ningqiang to remind her, as the cyan-colored sword light in her hand shot out. This sword strike contained Shi Qianghua's full strength, which directly tore apart the surrounding air. Qi Lu spurted out a few mouthfuls of blood, causing his true essence to turn chaotic. He knew that even if he wanted Ningqiang's things, he had to leave this place. This puny soul essence cultivator was too treacherous and cunning. Due to his own carelessness, he ended up falling into his trap. As long as these 2 people were still in the sifting orchid star, he, Qi Lu, would be able to kill them. Next time, he would never make such a low-level mistake. Unfortunately, it was just his wishful thinking. Not to mention that Shi Qianghua's cultivation was almost the same as his. Even if there was a huge disparity between them, at this time when Shi Qianghua stabbed out with her full strength, he would not be able to resist it. The several feet long cyan-colored sword light tore through everything around it, as all of the killing power gathered towards it. If Qi Lu was still safe and sound, he would have been able to resist this sword attack. However, he could only barely avoid it. Even so, the imposing manner of the powerful sword light still bound him. Puff! A bloody light flashed, as Qi Lu, who was already riddled with wounds, directly fell down. Not waiting for him to land, Ningqiang's long spear had already arrived. The spear intent was extremely terrifying, bringing with it a murderous aura. If Qi Lu was not injured, then he would not have cared about this spear. But now he did not care about it, not to mention that he could not, even if he wanted to avoid this spear, he would not be able to do it. Bang! The black spear directly pierced through his glabella, causing a fist-sized hole to burst open. Ningqing powerlessly fell to the ground. In his heart, he was secretly horrified at the sturdiness of Qi Li's head. If replaced with an ordinary cultivator, then his spear would have definitely turned the other party's head into nothingness. But in Qi Li's body, it only left behind a big hole. Shi Qianghua's cyan-colored sword promptly reversed. Even if Qi Li's corporeal body was more solid, he would not be able to block Shi Qianghua's sword. Putong! A huge head fell to the ground. Shi Qianghua immediately threw out a flame from her backhand. I'm not willing. Qi Li's life essence's tearing cry came out from the fireball. He really was not willing. He had painstakingly cultivated in the sifting orchid star for so many years, and was just about to go back and claim to be the overlord of the sifting orchid star, yet he was unexpectedly killed by 2 ants in his eyes. If he was willing, then it would truly be a strange thing. Shi Qianghua did not care about Qi Lu, and quickly came to Ning Cheng's side. Ning Cheng pointed to the things on the ground and spoke, "Qianghua, collect these things, we will leave immediately. There is a volcano here, since Qi Lu and Yenda could come here, then maybe there would be others." Shi Qianghua understood the meaning of Ning Cheng's words. Compared to Qi Lu and Yenda's things, the artifact crafting materials that came out from the eruption of this volcano were really not surprising. When she heard Ning Cheng's words, she put away the things as fast as she could, and quickly disappeared with Ning Cheng in her arms. Ning Cheng was not wrong. He and Shi Qianghua had just left, when another person came to this place. This person was a cultivator wearing a gray robe. When he saw Qi Li's corpse, he exclaimed out in surprise, "Is there still someone who could kill Qi Lu?" Then he turned around and walked away, not caring about the scarlet brilliant crystals that came out from the volcano. Ning Cheng's injuries were not light, but for a soul essence cultivator, as long as he did not hurt his foundation, he would be able to recover quickly. After an hour, Shi Qianghua finally stopped. In front of her and Ning Cheng was a basin filled with flashes of lightning. This place reminded Ning Cheng of the Thunder Domain Marsh in the Law's Way, but the flashes of lightning here were much more powerful compared to the ones in the Thunder Domain Marsh. After passing through this Thunder Domain basin, the space will become unstable, as spatial turbulences will appear everywhere. You have to follow me as closely as possible, do not stray too far from me. Shi Qianghua deliberately stopped to warn Ning Cheng. How do we pass through this Thunder Domain? Do you want to take a detour? Ning Cheng looked at the Thunder Domain basin filled with flashes of lightning, and felt somewhat apprehensive in his heart. Don't worry, the lightning arcs in this basin follow a regular pattern. As long as we follow a specific path, it would not be a problem. Even if we take a detour, we would not be able to bypass it, as there are mountain peaks on both sides that even crucible transformation cultivators would not be able to reach. Moreover, there is an endless volcanic lake on the outside of the mountain peaks. After passing through the volcanic lake, we do not know the end of the vast sea, as such there is no way for us to take a detour. Now you just have to follow me closely. As Shi Qianghua finished speaking, she immediately flew into the basin filled with flashes of lightning. Ning Cheng quickly followed Shi Qianghua, and soon discovered that every time Shi Qianghua landed, it was always the place where the lightning was the weakest. Even if there were a few traces of lightning, it would not matter if they fell on their bodies. Shi Qianghua's speed was very fast, and in just half an hour, the two of them had already passed through the Thunder Light Basin. After passing through the Thunder Light Basin, Ning Cheng immediately felt a kind of tearing. It was as if he could be torn into pieces by the spatial turbulence at any time, causing him to completely focus his attention on the surroundings around him. This is the spatial turbulence. You must be careful. Once you encounter a violent turbulence, you must quickly avoid it, you must not rush into it. When I was very young, I once saw a cultivator with a very strong body forging cultivation. Because of rushing into the spatial turbulence, he ended up being torn into pieces by the spatial turbulence. After coming to this place, Shi Qianghua's tone also became even more cautious. Ning Cheng nodded to show that he understood. He saw Shi Qianghua freely changing directions in the spatial turbulence, causing him to suspect that Shi Qianghua was a body-forging cultivator. However, now was not the time to ask about it. After the two of them found a safe place to rest, Ning Cheng was ready to ask Shi Qianghua. Shi Qianghua's speed was incomparably fast, as she brought Ning Cheng through the spatial turbulence. In just a day, they arrived at a narrow valley mouth. From time to time, the valley mouth spewed out a burst of hot air, while the heavy smell of sulfur made people wonder if a volcano would erupt at any time. If a person was in this narrow valley mouth, then once the volcano erupted, even if they could escape, it would be too late. What surprised Ning Cheng was that Shi Qianghua unexpectedly jumped down into the valley, and even called out to him, "Let's go down together." Although he suspected that this place was extremely dangerous, but since Shi Qianghua had already jumped down, Ning Cheng also did not hesitate, as he also jumped down. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.